Chapter 53:20. Eldest brother, aren't you the Prince of Zheng personally conferred by the Emperor? Why do we always have to suffer in front of them? The little white flower, Lin Shi, hurriedly held onto Mo Shikong, who had an unsightly expression. She turned to Su Shitao and said, "Tao, your eldest brother is just being courteous to his brother." Su Shitao rolled his eyes at her with an angry expression. You definitely can't be courteous to that kind of person. You can't even take a step back. If you take a step back, they will take a step forward. Eldest brother, if you keep retreating, there will be no way out. At that time, where will our family retreat to? Lin Shi hurriedly comforted. Little sister, didn't you say that the things in this newly opened dessert shop are not bad? How about I accompany you to pick some to bring home? However, Su Shitao did not give her any face and directly flung her hand away. He muttered, "Can't I pick it myself? I don't need you to say so much nonsense." Lin Shi's eyes turned red from grievance. Mo Shikong was a bit angry. Thinking that it was not good to berate his little sister in public, he glared at Su Shitao in irritation and pulled Lin Shi's hand to turn and leave. Why buy desserts? He was not in a good mood now and did not want to eat desserts. Arbor sat in the slightly swaying carriage. She opened the package of desserts and stuffed a piece in her mouth. Jojo's lotus. Why do you think that Mo Shikong invited us to tea for no reason? What is his motive? Mo Yin's mouth twitched. He opened several other packages of desserts and fed them to his wife. He probably just wants to express his goodwill to us. Who knew that his wife did not like this person at all? Arbor snorted. I feel uncomfortable when I see that little white flower pretending to be weak beside him. I, the crown princess, drink tea with a concubine? What would happen if word got out? Yes, the crown princess is mighty. Prince Mo nodded in agreement and handed her a cup of brewed tea. Let's ignore that kind of brainless person. His Joe was right. They were of different statuses, so it would be awkward for them to sit together and drink tea. He looks like your old Uncle King of Giant Pain. Mo Yin? ? That's strange. The King of Giant Pain is just sitting at home. How did disaster fall from the sky? If my wife wants to attack someone, then just attack them. Why did she have to drag the old prince of Giant Pain into it? Fickle and lecherous. The little crown princess had a serious expression on her face. And especially unreliable. Mo Yin was secretly amused. But on the surface, he looked like he seriously agreed with his wife's opinion. He thought that whatever his wife said was correct. Prince Mo nodded. That's right, wife. That Giant Pain Wong is simply too much. Her eldest brother and second brother had good points, but she didn't learn them. Instead, she picked up the bad habit of being a hedonistic and lecherous person. The next time we see him, we'll cheat him out of a sum of money. At the same time, the old King Giant Pain, who was far away in King Giant Pain's mansion, sneezed a few times and exchanged a glance with his son, Mo Kun. Mo Kun jumped up from his seat with a bang. Close the door, close the door. Immediately close the door. The old King Giant Pain asked speechlessly, What are you doing? Everything is fine. Why are you acting crazy? Close the door. Mo Kun ignored his father's question and hurriedly ordered the servants in the mansion to close the main door of King Giant Pain's mansion. The old King Giant Pain was baffled. What are you doing? Mo Kun shuddered a few times. Chapter 53:21. He leaned closer to the old king of Giant Pain with a strange expression. Father, I feel that a jinx might descend soon. It's better for us to protect ourselves and hide at home. Jinx? An expressionless face suddenly flashed past the old king of Giant Pain's eyes, and he couldn't help but shudder. His son's words should be credible. It was better to believe it than not. Since his son had said so, then it was better for the father and son to hide for a while. After all, if they were unlucky, they would gain some experience. Thinking that they might be unlucky after a while, the probability was probably quite high. If they hid, they would probably be able to avoid a lot of trouble. The old king of Giant Pain and his son closed their doors and declined guests from now on. When the emperor received the news the next day, he was puzzled and scolded jokingly. What are the father and son up to again? Why are they closing their doors and declining guests? These were all words for another day. At this moment, the little crown princess and the crown prince were scolding the old king of Giant Pain all the way to a tea house called Yongsheng on Changle Street. Third young Master Fu and Princess Wushuang had been waiting in the private room for a long time. Seeing the crown prince and his wife coming down from the carriage, Princess Wushuang leaned against the window and waved happily at them. Here, here, come quickly. The two of them went up to the tea house, and Third Fu personally opened the door to welcome them. Wushuang skipped forward and held Arbor's hand. She said with a smile, You two are so slow. We've been waiting for you for so long. The little crown princess said expressionlessly, We met an annoying person on the way and delayed some time. Prince Mo followed behind his wife and glanced at Wushuang, who was holding his wife's arm, pitifully. He placed a few bags of snacks on the table. Third young Master Fu was secretly amused. He coughed lightly, closed the door, and walked forward. Shuang quickly returned the crown princess to the crown prince. Wushuang turned to glance at Lian, pursed her lips, and continued to hook onto Arbor. Brother, don't be so petty. I'll just hold on to my sister-in-law for half a day at most. You can stay by my sister-in-law's side day and night. Prince Mo saw that she was not tactful and glared at her in annoyance. How is it? Have you bought everything you need? The little stoic asked curiously. I heard that you beat up Third Fu on the day you received the wedding date. Why? It's all because of him. Princess Wushuang was furious when she talked about it. He bribed the imperial astronomer to calculate the date to next month. Shuang, I already said that I didn't bribe anyone. This is the date chosen by His Majesty and Empress. Third young Master Fu said with an aggrieved expression. What's more, there are only 2 auspicious dates after the new year. If we don't get married next month, we'll have to wait until July or August. Princess Wushuang was expressionless. July or August is not too late. Late, of course it's late. Third young Master Fu quickly sat down beside his wife and took her little hand. It's urgent. Who's in a hurry? Princess Wushuang was embarrassed, but her small face still maintained its composure. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry at all. Right. Your husband is in a hurry. Your husband is especially in a hurry. And your father is actually also in a hurry, extremely anxious. Princess Wushuang reached out and pinched his arm hard. She roared, What did you say? Third young Master Fu immediately shut his mouth. Chapter 53:22. He immediately realized that he had said something wrong and tried to salvage the situation. Your father is not anxious, but I am. I am very anxious. Princess Wushuang snorted and did not say anything else. The little crown princess pursed her lips and tugged at Wushuang's sleeve. Wushuang, just marry him. If Third Fu dares to hurt you, I will beat him to death for you. Third Master Fu, why do I feel so worried? He felt a chill at the back of his neck. When he saw the little crown princess shooting daggers at him, Third Master Fu froze. Oh my God! He had finally married his wife, and he did not dare to do anything bad to her. He looked pleadingly at Prince Mo, who was watching from the side. Third Master Fu tilted his chin at him, implying that he should say something for his brother. Lian coughed lightly and said reluctantly, Jojo, don't worry. Third Fu is not like Uncle Wang. Who is Uncle Wang? Third young Master Fu had a bad feeling. He's like the old prince of Giant Pain who has a lot of concubines. My wife hates it the most. Lian said seriously. Third Master Fu quickly took Princess Wushuang's hand and swore. Wife, it was not easy for me to marry you. Don't worry, there won't be anyone else. Never. The little crown princess pursed her lips and rubbed salt into the Third Master Fu's wound. I'm afraid that Miss Bao has not been settled yet. What Miss Bao? Third Master Fu's heart sank when he saw his wife's expression change. He quickly said, There is no Miss Bao. Wife, don't worry. We don't have to care about that kind of person. Princess Wushuang also got angry when she thought about it. Can we not care about her? That Miss Bao has always wanted to marry into your general's residence. Madame Bao's family must have been like this. She taught the girls how to climb up the social ladder. Princess Wushuang had sent someone to investigate Bao Suaping's family in secret. This family was strange. Every woman from the Bao family was either a second wife or a concubine. None of them was a legitimate wife. The old master of the Bao family made his fortune by selling his daughter for glory. Since then, the Bao family had been following the old master's footsteps. They continued to sell their daughters for glory and benefits. This had probably become a tradition of the Bao family. Bao Suaping was even more outstanding. She usually stayed with her aunt, Madame Bao, and treated her like a real mother and daughter. Her aunt was also a very strange person. Clearly, the empress had already issued a marriage decree for her niece and son. Madame Bao even tried her best to match Bao Suaping with third young Master Fu. He was truly a person with an incomparably eccentric brain circuit. He didn't know what was going on in her head. It was as if she had entered a dead end and couldn't get out. When third Fu mentioned Bao Suaping, he couldn't help but feel depressed. Encountering a cowhide plaster that couldn't be shaken off, it was really difficult for him to say anything. He held Princess Wushuang's small hand and said to her with a smile, "My wife, you just need to be at ease and marry me. Leave the rest to the crown prince." Prince Imo looked at third young Master Fu with a stunned expression. They were really brothers who were willing to sacrifice themselves for each other. How did he get implicated for no reason when he was just sitting there? How do you want me to help you? Prince Imo was speechless. I want to borrow some people from the crown prince. I have a feeling that things will get chaotic on that day. Chapter 53:23. There is nothing wrong with making preparations first. Prince Imo nodded without hesitation. I'll give you 100 men from the Purple Forest Guards for you to use. Then, I'll have the men from the City Defense Camp patrol around your house. Nothing will go wrong on the day of the wedding. Third young Master Fu nodded repeatedly. I can't thank you with words. I'll remember it in my heart. Prince Imo rolled his eyes at him and said in annoyance, It's just a small matter. Sister-in-law, I saw that a new jewelry shop opened next door. Let's go take a look. While we're at it, let's get a gold necklace for my unborn nephew. The two men immediately looked at them eagerly. Princess Wushuang raised her head and snorted. You men can stay here and continue drinking tea. We'll be back soon. Wife. How heartless. His wife left him behind just like that and walked off with Princess Wushuang, arm in arm. The two men stared at each other and silently picked up their teacups to drink. After Arbor and Princess Wushuang walked out of the door, he asked her in a low voice, Did that Miss Bao find trouble with you again? She had long wanted to ask Princess Wushuang about these girls' private conversations, but it was not appropriate for her to ask because the two men were in the way. Princess Wushuang quickly shook her head. Sister-in-law, don't worry. That Miss Bao won't bully me. Arbor nodded. It made sense. Princess Wushuang was a godly state expert. How could she be bullied by the weak Miss Bao? She was the one who had overthought things because she was too concerned. Arbor looked back at Wushuang and said with a serious expression, But speaking of which, that Miss Bao who fainted easily that day is actually safer at home. What do you mean? Princess Wushuang's mouth twitched. She had a feeling that the little crown princess would not say anything good. As expected, the young crown prince consort solemnly said, It's not easy to treat her illness of fainting at the drop of a hat. Think about it. If she stays at home, at least there will be servants to support her if she falls on the ground. There will also be doctors willing to visit her. But what if she falls on the streets or in front of a brothel? What should we do? If she was picked up by the brothel, wouldn't she have to strangle her hair and become a prostitute, or directly smash her head against a pillar to death? Princess Wushuang resisted the urge to burst into laughter. However, she heard an exasperated scream behind her. What did you say? Princess Wushuang was stunned when she heard the voice. She turned around and hid the shock in her eyes. She stared at the person with an indifferent expression. As for the madam of the Lin family, she avoided the passers-by early in the morning and secretly came to the back door of the Prince Zheng's mansion while wiping her sweat. After waiting for a long time, someone opened the side door and welcomed them in. Madame Lin couldn't sit still in the side hall, pacing back and forth. It wasn't until the sound of footsteps came from outside the side hall that Madame Lin stopped and hurriedly turned her head back with a smile. She stepped forward with an apologetic smile and grabbed a woman's hand. Cousin, I finally met you. These days, your younger sister misses you very much and wanted to see you several times, but the gatekeeper said that you were sick. Madame Liang covered her mouth and coughed softly a few times. Madame Lin's eyes flashed. She reached out with a smile and helped her to a seat. Cousin, are you all right? I'm fine. Madame Lin, please sit. Madame Liang nodded and said, Why are you here? You can tell me directly. Chapter 53:24. Madame Liang was very clear about this cousin of hers. She would not visit a master without a reason. For her to be so courteous today, she must have something to ask of her. Seeing Madame Liang being so cold, Madame Lin felt that she had asked for a snub. So she said with an awkward expression, Oh, it's not that important. It's just that Meow was captured by the people of the Heavenly Fate Palace, and they still haven't let her go. I'm anxious, and I heard from husband that he had already come to ask for instructions from the prince. I don't know. Madame Liang quickly retracted her hand and said in fear and trepidation, I'm just a woman. I don't understand what you're saying to me. That Heavenly Fate Palace, I don't know and don't understand. Didon asked me, don't ask me. As she said this, she seemed to be very flustered, and her entire body trembled. Madame Lin looked at her in confusion. Cousin, why are you so afraid? Madame Liang trembled. I'm not afraid. She just didn't want to cause trouble. It was about the Heavenly Fate Palace, and she came to find a woman without any cultivation. What was this? Cousin, you have to help our Meow. As Madame Lin spoke, she was about to kneel to Madame Liang. Madame Liang quickly went to support her, saying, Madame Lin, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that I'm just a woman without the strength to truss a chicken. I really can't help you much. Then bring me to the prince. The prince cannot help us. Madame Lin grabbed Madame Liang's hand, revealing a bit of hysteria. Our husband said that he's done many big things for your prince. The prince can't ignore our Meow. Madam. Hurried footsteps came from outside, and a middle-aged man came in, flustered and exasperated. He glared at Madame Lin, his eyes almost burning with anger. Madam, what are you doing here? Quickly come back with me, and don't disturb Madame Sue. Husband, why are you pulling me? If you hadn't helped their prince to surround His Highness the Crown Prince, who had returned from Huiping Village, how could our Lin family be targeted by the Crown Prince? Wasn't it because we offended the Crown Prince? Master, why do you keep tugging at me? Am I not telling the truth? If it weren't for you helping His Highness set up the Lin family restaurant to defeat the Crown Princess Kai-Dai Pavilion, our Lin family wouldn't have offended the Crown Princess even more. All right, shut up. The Lin family patriarch scolded angrily. A cold voice came from outside the door. Oh, it seems that Madame Lin is quite dissatisfied with this prince. Mrs. Lin held Mo Shikong's hand and walked in. When she saw her official mother, her eyes flashed slightly. Lin Foren's anger rose from her heart. She couldn't help but rebuke, I don't dare to be dissatisfied. It's just that this madam has some complaints about Wang Ye's actions. Shut up. Patriarch Lin wished he could slap this stupid woman to death. How could he be so stupid? This stupid woman. Who did she think she was facing? That was King Zheng. He was the only adopted son of the great emperor. She was so audacious to speak to Zheng Wang in such a manner. Was she tired of living? But Madame Lin had already thrown caution to the wind for the sake of her daughter, Lin Miao-er's life. She didn't fight back now and didn't fight for her daughter's life. The longer this dragged on, the more uneasy she felt. Lin Miao-er was her only daughter. Chapter 53:25. Ever since our Lin family moved from Rong City to the capital, we have always been used by your highness. For so many days, we have been obedient to your highness's orders. Your highness, I have long hair and little knowledge. I made you laugh. Although I don't know much, I do know one thing. Our master said that as long as your highness says something, someone will definitely do something for you and release our Miao-er. Our master is already begging you like this. Please, on account of my heart as a mother, can't you be a little more flexible at this point? Madame Lin suddenly saw a cold light flash through Mo Shikong's eyes. It was like a dark, starry sky, without any light at all. Madame Lin's heart trembled slightly. Then she heard Imo Shikong say coldly, "I'll take it that you're a woman talking nonsense and don't know anything. Lin family head, you need to take your wife back and teach her a lesson." "Yes, yes, this lowly one will definitely obey." Master Lin nodded and bowed repeatedly, looking anxious and uneasy. Madame Lin was furious. She suddenly shook off Master Lin's hand and said angrily, "Your Highness, let's not beat around the bush in front of honest people. Our Lin family has helped you so much, and now it's just a small request. Are you not willing to help even if it's like this?" "Shut up." Master Lin was shocked and angry. He stared at his wife angrily. His wife was good at everything, but she was always worried. Once it involved her daughter, Meower, she easily lost control of her emotions. Just like now, she was facing the prince aggressively. Who did she think he was that he could let her order him around like this? It was ridiculous. Master Lin reprimanded angrily, "Madam, don't say any more. I've already discussed Meower's matter with the prince. You're a woman, so don't interfere in this matter." "I don't interfere? If I don't interfere, who can interfere? If I don't interfere, will you interfere? As a father, if you really care about your daughter's life, you wouldn't have dragged it out for 3 to 4 months and still haven't rescued her." Master Lin's expression was very ugly for a moment. His wife didn't give him any face in front of so many people. As the head of the Lin family and the head of the Lin family, he was in an awkward position. Imo Shikong stared coldly at the middle-aged woman. She was slightly plump, and her voice was especially loud. This Madame Lin raised her voice, with an attitude that no one would be able to persuade her back. This made Imo Shikong's eyes turn cold. Standing by the door, Mrs. Lin, who had been holding Imo Shikong's arm, hurriedly stepped forward. Acting like a peacemaker, she said softly, "Mother, if you have anything to say, please say it nicely. Don't be angry with the prince. Sister Meower is missing. We are all very worried." Madame Lin did not care about this concubine's daughter at all. She opened her mouth and scolded, "Get lost, you shameless thing. The entire Lin family's face has been thrown away by you. Why do you have to speak here?" Mrs. Lin's soft hand froze in midair. She quickly turned around and covered her face as she wept softly. Imo Shikong's expression turned even uglier. He raised his hand to pull the aggrieved Lin and turned to glare at Madame Lin. He said coldly, "Madame Lin is really arrogant. Master Lin is really well-educated." Imo Shikong scolded angrily. Chapter 53:26. Madame Lin barged into my mansion and not only loudly berated this prince's concubine, but also spoke disrespectfully to this prince. Today really opened this prince's eyes. Family head Lin's head was drenched in cold sweat. He quickly bowed and repeatedly said, "Your Highness, please forgive me, Your Highness." Madame has been thinking about her daughter for the past few days and is somewhat delirious. This one will take her back and discipline her strictly. Imo Shikong coldly glanced at family head Lin and his wife, then turned to the trembling Madame Liang and said, "Mother, you and return to the room first." Okay. Madame Liang was already scared to death. She was originally very timid, and just now, she was frightened by Madame Lin's shouts. Now, her legs were trembling and she couldn't take it anymore. Seeing that her son wanted her to return to the room, she quickly nodded and supported Madame Lin to leave together. On the other hand, Madame Lin was clearly not reconciled. She still wanted to stay here and wait to see what kind of good end that old woman would have. All day long, she put on the airs of a legitimate mother. She had already married into Prince Zheng's mansion and became the woman of the prince. But this old woman still dared to be so arrogant and despotic. She deserved to be severely punished by the prince. Family head Lin, it's not convenient to talk here. Bring Madame and follow this prince. Imo Shikong turned and left with a gloomy expression. Family head Lin's face instantly paled. He answered submissively and trembled as he brought Madame Lin to a small room in the side hall. "Madame Lin, how do you know that this prince has the ability to rescue Miss Lin?" Imo Shikong asked calmly. "Do you know who has your Miss Lin in their hands?" Madame Lin nodded repeatedly. It's those fanatics from Tianyun who kidnapped my daughter. Please, Your Highness, save our meow-er. For Your Highness, this is just a matter of lifting your hand. Oh, Mo Shikong's eyes flashed, and he suddenly asked with a chuckle, how does Madame Lin know that helping Tianyun release Miss Lin is a matter of lifting my hand for this prince? Madame Lin was slightly stunned. She turned her head and saw her master's dark old face. She stammered and didn't dare to make a sound. From the looks of it, Madame Lin is very clear that the relationship between me and Tianyun is not shallow. Madame Lin braced herself and nodded. She smiled embarrassedly and said, our master said that Wang Yi is a very capable person. Lin family head, you really dare to say anything in front of Madame. The Lin family head felt a chill run down his spine and quickly said, Your Highness, please calm down. The heavens and earth can bear witness to this. This subordinate is completely devoted to His Highness and would never dare to easily tell others about His Highness's matters. As for how my wife found out, I'm afraid she overheard it. Oh, Mo Shikong sneered and nodded. Eavesdropping on Master Lin's secret. Your wife is really amazing. He stood up and walked out, leaving a faint sentence. I don't want anyone to know my identity for the time being. Family head Lin gritted his teeth and his hands trembled slightly. Lin Foreign looked back with a confused expression. Why did Wang Yi leave after saying a few words? What's going on? Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her lower back. Lin Foreign turned her face with a startled expression. She saw family head Lin tilting his head slightly, holding a trembling sword in his hand. More than half of the sword sank into her lower back. Chapter 53:27. Just like this, without any warning, her own husband actually raised a sword to kill her. Madame Lin stared at Patriarch Lin in shock. She felt a chill on her back. The sword had pierced a big hole in her body. When she pulled it out, she saw that she had spurted out a lot of blood. Blood dripped onto the ground in an instant. There was a circle of dripping blood all around. It was her blood that was flowing out of her body. Madame Lin didn't know that a person could bleed so much before they died. Her face was full of astonishment and disbelief. She didn't understand why her husband would be so cruel to her out of the blue. However, she didn't have time to think about it. She felt a chill at the back of her waist, and her whole body fell to the ground, lying there heavily. Perhaps even until her death, she didn't know which sentence had thoroughly offended this prince and made him ruthlessly give the order to put her to death. The bloody sword in Patriarch Lin's hand fell to the ground with a clang. He picked up his wife, who had fallen to the ground with her eyes wide open. He couldn't help but feel sad. The secret relationship between the prince and Tianyun was a secret that no one could tell. Madame was like a blabbermouth. If she talked nonsense, she might ruin the prince's plan. Madame, Patriarch Lin cried, I only hope that you can control your mouth in the next life and stop talking nonsense. On the other side, Arbor and Wushuang had not reached the jewelry shop when they heard an angry rebuke behind them. Who are you talking about? Who is going to a brothel? Who is going to twist her hair and become a sister-in-law? The voice trembled with anger. The little crown princess was stunned. She held Princess Wushuang's hand and turned around to look. They couldn't help but look at each other. Don't talk nonsense in broad daylight. Someone appeared in front of them after a few words. Miss Bao was wearing a blazing red dress today. There was a trace of anger on her graceful face. She stared at Arbor and Princess Wushuang in a daze. She couldn't believe her ears. There was actually such a vicious and cunning woman in the world who was good at taking advantage of others. They actually criticized her behind her back and even said that she would end up in a brothel. They even said that she might strangle her hair and become a prostitute. You are simply vicious. Bao Tsuaping was so angry that she looked like she was about to faint. Bao Tsuaping's personal maidservant hurriedly stepped forward to support her, her face filled with righteous indignation. The two of you, there is no enmity between us. But today you actually slander my family's young lady behind her back. This is too unreasonable. Princess Wushuang blinked and asked, Who slandered your daughter? This was truly baffling. She and Jojo were just strolling around and chatting. How did Miss Bao, who had such a strange mind, turn it into a vicious slander? What did they talk about? You guys just now. Miss Bao clutched her chest with one hand. She looked like she was struggling in pain and could not breathe. Just now, you know very well what you were talking about. Miss Fong's body was swaying. The young crown prince consort hastily reminded her out of good intentions. She then said in all seriousness, "Be careful, Miss Bao. The ground is hard and stiff from your fall. It's hard to say if all your bones will break, but your head will definitely bruise." Chapter 53:28. When Bao Tzuaping heard this, she hurriedly put on an appearance of being out of breath. She extended a trembling finger and pointed at the young crown prince consort, trembling. "Crown princess, your words are too infuriating." Beside Bao Tzuaping, a loyal servant girl shouted in exasperation, "Even if you beat me to death today, I will do my best to persuade you. You have no enmity with my family's young Mississippi. You can't be biased against my miss just because you are partial to Princess Wushuang. Every time you see my miss, you criticize her." The little crown princess was baffled. She turned to look at Princess Wushuang. "I criticized her." Princess Wushuang shook her head with a serious expression. "Sister-in-law, you are just speaking the truth." "That's right." Sir Jojo nodded in agreement. Then he frowned and looked at Bao Tzuaping. "Miss Bao, I see that your face is pale, your ears are blue, and there's a black pimple on the tip of your nose. This is a sign of excessive worry. It means that you have a knot in your heart that cannot be untied. You have to be more relaxed in daily life. Otherwise, it will really affect your health in the future." The little crown princess tone was very calm. "If it is light, you will go crazy. If it is serious, you will not be able to conceive a child. You have to be careful. Your symptoms are more serious than the last time I saw you." Bao Tzuaping was so angry that her limbs trembled. Her body was cold, as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. This crown princess insulted her every time she saw her. She said that she was infertile every time. How could she say such things? She was still an unmarried young lady. If she said this to the crown princess a few more times, the whole capital would probably spread the rumor that she was infertile. Bao Tzuaping was so angry that her whole body trembled. She was on the verge of collapsing. If it were not for the two servant girls supporting her on both sides, Bao Tzuaping would not be able to stand. The little crown princess glanced at her and shook her head. She said in a serious tone, "Your foundation is weak. It is not good for you to eat too much. It is best to eat something light on a daily basis. Being young is an asset. You can still be saved if you recover well." "Shut up." Bao Tzuaping finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Like a volcano erupting, she tightly gripped the hands of the two maidservants and borrowed their strength. Her entire body trembled as she screamed at the top of her lungs. They were originally standing on the street. This shout attracted the attention of all the passers-by. The little crown princess was also shocked by Miss Bao's sudden outburst. Her dark eyes looked at the other party in confusion. Princess Wushuang reacted quickly and raised her hand in front of the young crown princess. This was to prevent Miss Bao from rashly bumping into her sister-in-law and hitting her stomach. "Don't think that just because you're the crown princess, you can spout nonsense and ridicule others." Bao Tzuaping shouted harshly. "In this world, we still pay attention to the law. As the future mother of a nation, you have to be virtuous and pay attention to your words and actions. Don't talk nonsense and accuse others." The little crown princess looked as if she was saying, "What did I accuse you of?" When Princess Wushuang, who was watching silently from the side, saw this, she almost laughed out loud. She could guarantee that what her sister-in-law said to Bao Tzuaping just now was from the perspective of a doctor. She was definitely not trying to scare Bao Tzuaping. The fact that the little crown princess could say so much could only mean one thing. There was really something wrong with Bao Tzuaping's body. Her sister-in-law was just pointing out the problem. Chapter 53:29. Unfortunately, honest advice grated on the ear. This Miss Bao was in a state of complete disregard. Not only did Miss Bao not listen, but she also felt very good about herself. Arbor was truly baffled. He glared at Bao Tsueping, and a thin layer of anger covered his face. His voice also involuntarily rose a few notches. Preposterous. The little stoic forcefully flung her sleeves and huffed. Simply unreasonable. Wushuang, let's go. Okay. Princess Wushuang secretly suppressed her laughter and nodded. She hooked her sister-in-law's arm and strode quickly toward the jewelry store. Her sister-in-law's angry bun-like face was especially amusing. She really wanted to poke her small, stoic face with a finger. Unfortunately, Princess Wushuang still withdrew her hand cowardly. She didn't need to turn her head to sense that her eldest brother, the Crown Prince, was currently watching them from the nearby tea house. Needless to say, they also saw the scene at the tea house's entrance just now. That's right, Bao Tsueping's terrifying shout could be heard by everyone on the street. How could the Crown Prince and third young Master Fu, who were in the tea house, not know? On the other side, Bao Tsueping nearly fainted from anger. When she thought of how she didn't have time to say anything serious to that proud commandery princess, those two actually abandoned her and left. She was so angry that her chest hurt. She hastily instructed her 2 personal maidservants to support her tottering body as she followed them. This crown princess was simply arrogant and despotic. She was the unreasonable person. Bao Tsueping arrived at the jewelry store's entrance in a gloomy mood and looked up at the brand new entrance. This jewelry store had just opened recently, so there were quite a lot of people going in and out. Everyone came for the novelty and felt that some of the jewelry designs were very good. When Arbor and Princess Wushuang were looking around inside, they saw Bao Tsueping enter with a dark face supported by 2 maidservants, fully displaying the delicate and frail appearance of a wealthy young miss. The 2 silently looked at each other and saw the word impatience in each other's eyes. This Miss Bao really wasn't done, was she? As soon as Miss Bao entered the jewelry store, she saw a large tray placed next to Princess Wushuang's hand. There were many dazzling golden ornaments inside. The princess was talking to the old shopkeeper, who was nodding and smiling, about making a new set of gold bracelets and necklaces. The shopkeeper listened and took notes at the same time, nodding his head enthusiastically. From time to time, he would take out some new designs for the princess to choose from. Arbor stood to the side and flipped through a jewelry booklet, pausing from time to time. Seeing that Bao Tsueping was walking towards them, Arbor glanced around, and Li immediately appeared beside Bao Tsueping like a ghost. She stretched out her hand and blocked Bao Tsueping's path. "Get out of the way." Bao Tsueping couldn't help but look angry. Li Yi was expressionless as she said, "Miss, if you don't want to be kicked out by me, Li Yi advises you to leave this place as soon as possible." Bao Tsueping glared at Li Yi, her eyes blazing with anger. "What do you mean by that?" "Literally," Li Yi said faintly. "Don't tell me you dare to fight with me?" Bao Tsueping's expression was one of disbelief as she shouted sternly, "This little girl only wants to say a few words to the princess. Do you have to stop me from going up like this?" "What? Your princess can't be seen." Princess Wushuang glanced at her. "Slap her." Chapter 53:30. Princess Wushuang had just finished her sentence. A red ferrule immediately appeared in Li Ye's hand. With a pa sound, she slapped Bao Tsueping's incessant chattering mouth. Miss Bao couldn't help but be stunned. She stared at Li Yi in disbelief. She couldn't believe that she would be whipped by a ruler in front of so many people. Li Ye's actions were swift. Almost at the same time Princess Wushuang gave the order, she had already taken out the red ferrule and slapped Miss Bao a few times. The little crown princess couldn't help but twitch her lips. She felt that this scene was a little funny. Why did Li Yi bring a ferrule with her? And her actions were so mechanical. Once the princess gave the order, Li Yi immediately took out the ferrule and executed it without a second word. It was as if she had been waiting for a long time and was ready to hit Bao Tsueping anytime miss. The 2 servant girls turned pale with fright and rushed forward, hurriedly supporting Miss Bao as they retreated backwards. However, they pounced on a barrier. It was then that they realized that Miss Li Yi had actually set up a barrier in front of them. How could two ordinary servant girls go up to rescue her? She could only watch helplessly as her young miss suffered under Lie's ferule, bit by bit. Miss, the two servant girls were so anxious that they ran in circles outside the barrier. They used all their strength to hit that thick, transparent barrier, but were unable to pass through. Miss! Miss! In the jewelry shop, the shopkeeper kept quiet out of fear and didn't dare to make a sound. A few madams and young ladies who were choosing jewelry were also hiding by the side. They only dared to watch from afar and didn't dare to step forward to stop them. Moreover, to put it bluntly, they didn't understand what was going on and naturally wouldn't step forward to say anything. After all, when the Crown Princess and Princess Wushuang entered the shop, they had also stepped forward to greet them. At that time, those two nobles had very politely asked them not to be overly courteous. They also didn't see the Crown Princess and Princess Wushuang speaking so bluntly to anyone. They guessed that this miss must have offended the nobles somehow. Otherwise, why would the two nobles only ask people to punish her? Over the past few days, the prestigious madams and young misses in the capital had all come to understand the habits of our little Crown Princess. That is, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If you simply bumped into her on the road and didn't provoke her or even greet her, nothing would happen. But once you get hit, there would definitely be an unexpected great harvest. Several young ladies gathered together and whispered to each other. Their gazes were puzzled as they looked at the woman who was being slapped behind the barrier. Hey, isn't that Miss Bao from Marquis Ning's estate? I think so. What Changningho estate's Miss Bao? She was just the niece of Marquis Ning's second wife. She can't be considered the young miss of Marquis Ning's estate. I heard that she was recently betrothed to the fourth young master of Marquis Ning's estate. Or was it a decree from the Empress herself? It said that Miss Bao isn't satisfied with such an honorable thing. Why? One of the young ladies looked in surprise at the insider and said disdainfully, "What's there to be dissatisfied about?" Exactly. A harsh-looking madam interrupted with a laugh. Their Bao family is the joke of the entire capital. The girls in their family never marry a first wife. Chapter 53:31. If she's not a concubine, she'll be a concubine. At most, she'll be a second wife. Now, fourth young master is the second legitimate son of Marquis Changningho's mansion. She can marry the second legitimate son and be his legal wife. What's there to be dissatisfied about? The young ladies covered their handkerchiefs and snickered as they nodded. What are you talking about? He has high standards. Didn't she have some trouble with the eldest legitimate son of the Fu family, General and Nan? It said that she asked her aunt, the second wife of Marquis Changningho's mansion, to spread rumors that she was engaged to third young Master Fu. At this point, the woman couldn't help but burst into laughter. In the end, she was slapped in the face by third young master. Third young master went to the palace and asked for His Majesty's imperial edict to marry Princess Wushuang. Everyone looked thoughtfully at Princess Wushuang and the Crown Princess. No way, Miss Bao would do such a shameless thing. If a cow doesn't drink water, do you think you can force it to drink? That's right. That's why the Bao family is full of weirdos. So today's matter, Miss Bao was the one who started it. A young lady said softly, "His Majesty has already betrothed Princess Wushuang and third young Master Fu. Why is she still looking for him? Miss Yang, with the Bao family's upbringing, how can they raise a good girl? They're all short-sighted people. How can they be like Miss Yang, who comes from a scholarly family and whose mother is well known in the capital city for being virtuous? Our upbringing is completely different from theirs." The soft-spoken young lady smiled shyly at the woman. "Madam, you flatter me." The madams and young misses gathered together and discussed in low voices. Although their voices weren't loud, every word and sentence fell into Bao Suiping's ears. It angered her to the point of flying out of her body. Her entire body was dizzy and she fell down unsteadily. Li held the ferrule expressionlessly and punished Bao Suiping. When she hit her 50 times, Princess Wushuang said lightly, "That's enough." Li took back her ferrule. With a stoic expression, she took out a yellow handkerchief and wiped the pharaoh with force. He threw away the handkerchief, put away the ruler, and removed the barrier. With a serious expression, he returned to the side of the little crown princess. Princess Wushuang looked at the girl and could not help but twitch her mouth. Strange. She wondered if it was just her imagination. Why did she feel that Lie's stoic face was somewhat similar to her sister-in-law's? Could it be that he was more like a master? Mississippi, two servant girls rushed over and reached out to support Bao Suiping. Bao Suiping's body went soft, and she collapsed. The two servant girls' arms were thin and weak, and their strength was weak. They were unable to support her, and one on her left and one on her right, they collapsed to the ground. At this moment, Bao Suiping's cheeks were already swollen. Her mouth was swollen like a bloody steam bun. When she opened her mouth, two missing teeth were revealed. Suiping, Suiping. A young man rushed into the jewelry shop like a gust of wind. He looked at Bao Suiping, who was lying on the ground with her mouth swollen and broken from the beating. He cried out in grief and rushed over. The madams and young ladies gathered together, whispered to each other, and discussed in low voices. There, that's the fourth young master of the Fu family, Miss Bao's fiancé. Chapter 53-32. One of the ladies commented, although this fourth young master is not as handsome and elegant as the third young master, he is still quite good-looking and has all four limbs. That's right. Miss Bao comes from a small family. What's there to be dissatisfied about marrying into Marquis Ning's mansion as a legitimate wife? A man whose heart is not content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. This girl is just arrogant. She's seen better, so of course she doesn't want to settle for this one. The third young master has to be interested in her first. I saw the third young master and Princess Wushuang walking together last time. They really look like a perfect couple. A young lady glanced at Bao Suiping with disdain. So shameless. She's already been betrothed by His Majesty and will be getting married soon. If she's a well-educated young lady, why would she get involved in other people's affairs? That's right. She even did something like that before. She slandered and spread rumors about a fake engagement with the third young master. If we were exposed, we wouldn't even dare to look at the princess. Even if we met her on the road, we would have run away in shame. That's right, that's right. I heard that the Fu family's eldest young miss and second young miss are also unhappy about this. That's right. Miss Bao slandered their younger brother. Which elder sister would be happy to hear this? Shut up, all of you. Fourth young master Fu was so angry that his chest tightened when he heard the crowd criticizing Bao Suiping. What was going on? Why was Suiping beaten up like this when she was fine in the morning? And these gossipy women were all gossiping about Suiping. Suiping was a girl. How could she stand this? She had fainted from anger, but these people still refused to let her go. They were crazy. Princess Wushuang, although you're an imperial princess, you can't bully a young lady from Marquis Ning's mansion. Fourth young master Fu scolded angrily. Isn't it enough that she fainted from anger? You still let these people and so many mouths humiliate and scold her. Do you have any humanity? Hey, fourth young master, we don't like what you're saying. A woman with a rather shrewish personality immediately retorted without giving him any face. How do we humiliate Miss Bao? We're all here, talking among ourselves. She could just ignore us. Why did she have to faint from anger? Miss Yang said softly. No one said anything. That's right. You dare to do it, but you're afraid of others talking about it. Another young lady used a fan to cover her mouth and rolled her eyes in disdain. Fourth young master, we didn't scold her. You have to clarify this matter. Princess Wushuang glanced at fourth young master Fu nonchalantly. Before she could speak, a gloomy voice sounded from the door. Fourth Fu, take your woman and get out of here immediately. In the future, don't be an eyesore in front of my wife. If you treasure her, then take her back with you. You're going to put in a lot of effort. It was best to lock him in his room and not let him out again. Otherwise, he'll act like a mad dog and bite everyone he catches. Third young master Fu strode in and started to scold him. He did not give fourth young master Fu any face at all. Also, we'll get married at the general's mansion. At that time, your mother won't have to come over and make arrangements. My two older sisters will come over to help. Chapter 53:33. You and that woman can stay at Chongningho's residence and continue to be lovey-dovey with each other. You don't have to be an eyesore in front of us. When these words were spoken, everyone could not help but be somewhat dumbfounded. General Nan meant that he would not invite the second madam and the others to the wedding. They wondered if Chongningho would faint from anger when he heard this. Yu, fourth young master Fu, was so angry that his entire body was trembling. His entire body was shaking nonstop. Was there anything more shameless than this? He had said it in front of so many people, and there was no need for the mother and son to be there. Third young master Fu walked to the princess's side and took her hand. He lowered his head and asked, "Did you suffer any grievances?" The princess rolled her eyes speechlessly. "What grievances can I suffer? If anyone dares to shout in front of me, I will hit her back." "Good." Third young master Fu immediately smiled and hugged her. "You are indeed my beloved wife. This is what you should do. I didn't marry my wife to let her suffer. In the future, when you meet these people, you don't have to give them any face. Just hit them." In front of so many people, Princess Wushuang was so embarrassed by this man that her face turned red. She did not have the nerve to hit him, but she could not help but glare at him. This man's words were too shameless. Prince Imo followed in and walked to Jojo's side. When the madams and misses saw them, they hurried forward to greet them. After greeting third young master Fu, they retreated to the side and stole glances at them. Bao Suaping fainted from anger 3 times. She had already woken up, but then she heard those gossipy madams and misses talking about her, saying that she was shameless. She fainted from anger. When she woke up again, she heard the person she liked coldly tell fourth cousin to take this woman and get out of their sight. This time, she really fainted from anger. She could not accept that the person she liked could be so cold to her. She had loved him for so many years, but in the end, it was all a stupid joke. When she woke up again, she felt as if there was something stuck in her chest, and it was difficult to calm down. Bao Suaping's eyes were misty as she looked at her fourth cousin with teary eyes. She sobbed, "Cousin, help me up." Fourth young master Fu immediately helped her up, his heart aching. "Suaping, you've suffered." Miss Bao sobbed as if she had suffered all the coldness and grievances in the world. She sobbed uncontrollably. Third young master Fu rolled his eyes. "Your aunt is not dead yet. There is no need to cry here. When they die, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to cry." Everyone was once again dumbfounded. After witnessing third young master Fu's poisonous mouth, they could only exchange an indescribable look. Third young master was so ruthless towards Miss Bao. She really couldn't understand how that young lady could be so foolish as to fall head first into the trap and marry no one else but third young master. In their opinion, there must be something wrong with Miss Bao's brain. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. What did they do? The third young master was highly regarded by the emperor and was also a close friend of the crown prince. It was said that the third young master had made a great contribution in killing the heavenly Kismet and would soon be promoted. With this promotion, he might even become a first-grade guardian general of the state. Now that the third young master was Lord Tai Shan and the emperor's sworn brother, one could imagine how limitless his future would be. Chapter 53:34. No one would offend such a promising young man unless they were extremely stupid. Otherwise, they should get along well with him. Third cousin. Bao Suaping sobbed. "Ow, how can you speak like this? Wasn't third cousin cursing his aunt, Madame Bao, to die early? As the general of Annan, was it appropriate for him to curse his official mother like this?" However, third Fu's patience with this little white flower had already ended. He felt disgusted at the sight of her. She had tried so hard to set him up with her good aunt, so let's not talk about it anymore. Now that the marriage had been settled, she was still trying to cause trouble. Instead of avoiding Wu Shuang, she was sticking to him. What was she up to? If Wu Shuang was not powerful, he would have been tricked by this woman. At the thought of this, third young master Fu's eyes turned cold. He glanced at Bao Suaping coldly, like 2 pools of ice. Bao Suaping shivered and could not help but feel sad. The man she loved was looking at her with such disdain and disgust. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, and she really wanted to die in front of everyone. Princess, I am not talking to you today because of my own matters. You have really misunderstood me. Bao Tsuaping sobbed. I am here to beg you, for fourth cousin's sake. The little crown princess said expressionlessly. Only beauties can cry like pear blossoms. Your face is swollen like a pig's head, and you don't look good when you cry. Don't cry like this to gain sympathy. Everyone. Prince Mo curved his lips in amusement. He held his wife's hand with one hand and nodded in agreement. Then he added, You don't look good when you cry even if your face is not swollen. Fourth young Master Fu was so angry that his entire body shivered, and the hand holding Bao Tsuaping also trembled slightly. This was too much. This was too much. Bao Tsuaping looked like she was about to collapse. She was held in fourth young Master Fu's arms and cried even louder. Cousin, don't be afraid. With me protecting you, no one will dare to bully you. Fourth young Master Fu said loudly. The moment he finished speaking, he saw everyone looking at him as if he was a fool. But then again, it was true. After all, his beloved cousin had been bullied until now, and this fourth young Master Fu had not been able to protect her. This fourth young Master Fu was probably not very smart. He could talk to his third brother, but could he be more important than Princess Wushuang, the crown princess? Fourth cousin. Bao Tsuaping cried for a while and stood up slightly, but she was still leaning into fourth young Master Fu's arms. She looked at Princess Wushuang with her red and swollen eyes and said in a choked voice, Princess Wushuang, please go to the palace and ask Her Highness to take back the order. I can't harm fourth cousin. Fourth cousin deserves a better woman to love him. I can't be so selfish. I'm a girl from an ordinary family. My cultivation is ordinary, and my talents are also ordinary. I can't be selfish. We can't ruin fourth cousin's bright future. Tsuaping. Fourth young master's eyes were slightly red. He held his cousin's hand tightly. I don't care. Tsuaping, I don't like girls from noble families or noble families. I only like you. Fourth young Master Fu looked as if he was swearing an oath. He held Miss Bao's hands tightly. He could not control his emotions, and his voice was slightly choked. Chapter 53:35. In the future, even if I marry a lady from a noble family, you will still be the number one person in my heart. For the rest of my life, no, it will never change. Tsuaping, you are the woman I love the most. The crowd looked at the two people in front of them in a daze, as if they were looking at a fool acting. One was willing to be hit, and the other was willing to be hit. Also, they were not very smart. Who could say such words in front of so many noble ladies and madams? Was this fourth young Master Fu a fool? Now that he had said this, his words would definitely spread throughout the entire capital by tomorrow morning. Which noble lady would dare to marry an idiot like him? Which noble lady would be willing to marry into the family and be her husband's puppet? Knowing that her husband had someone else in his heart, she would still throw herself into his arms? Are you stupid, or am I stupid? Also, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Bao Tsuaping obviously did not like fourth young Master Fu. She said those words for the sake of fourth young Master Fu's future, but in fact, she did not want to marry fourth young Master Fu. Unexpectedly, fourth young Master Fu was such a fool that he really believed this woman's words. He even said that he would love her forever. This was really a comical show. Princess Wushuang was a little angry now and said coldly, Bao Tsuaping, what do you mean? Your fourth young Master Fu deserves a better woman's love. My husband is not worth it? Does he have to make do with a lowly slut like you? Do you have to rely on him? How is he not better than fourth young master? You are a woman with mediocre cultivation and talent. You're not even good enough for fourth young Master Fu, and you still want to hook up with my husband? Are you stupid, or am I stupid? Or do you think everyone here is a fool who could be manipulated by a stupid woman like you? Her words were powerful, and the surrounding madams and young ladies nodded in agreement. The princess was indeed a princess. Not only was she good at fighting, but she was also sharper than anyone else. And third young Master Fu, who was holding the princess's hand, was so happy that he was about to fly. She admitted it. He had been acknowledged by his wife. His wife finally called him husband in front of outsiders. Ha ha he. Crown Prince Imo cast an indifferent glance at Third Fu, who was laughing himself silly on the side, and commented with a frown, "Silly." The little stoic was silent. After quite a while, she said, "You were even more foolish than him back then." Prince Imo, what was wrong with his wife? Ever since she gave birth to baby Imo, she seemed to like scolding him even more. On the other side, Bao Tzuaping trembled slightly after being scolded by Princess Wushuang. She couldn't control her emotions and screamed, You're still talking about me like that? If you hadn't interfered with third cousin, would he have despised me like this? Third cousin and I grew up together. We were childhood sweethearts. It's you. It's you. It's all your fault. She suddenly appeared and stole my man. You're so outstanding. Why are you so shamelessly trying to steal my man? I hate you. Why didn't you die at the border? Why did you die on a battlefield? Everyone was flabbergasted. She had once again broadened their horizons. It turned out that a person could be shameless to this extent when they wanted to. Princess Wushuang and the King of Jinyuan had spent so many years at the border protecting the country and contributing so much to the country and its people. In the hearts of the common people, they were godlike figures. Chapter 53:36. Seeing this woman insulting the princess, some of the commoners at the entrance of the jewelry store could not help but scold her angrily. What did you say? How dare you insult the princess like this? You should catch her and drown her in a pig cage. Evil woman. Third Fu was so angry that he waved his sleeve and slapped Bao Tzuaping hard. Bao Tzuaping's body swayed, and she was about to fall to the ground when fourth young master Fu quickly pulled her into his arms. Third Fu did not hold back at all in this slap. The slap made Bao Tzuaping's ears ring and her vision blur. She felt dizzy. She heard the angry and cold voice of the person she liked. Are you crazy? Don't call me that so intimately. Who is your cousin? My mother passed away many years ago. My maternal family is a famous scholarly family in Qingzhou. Both of my uncles are currently stationed outside the country. I don't remember that the surname of their daughters is Bao. My cousins are all well-educated and come from famous families. Don't smear and insult their reputation outside. Third young master Fu roared angrily. Also, you said that we are childhood sweethearts and innocent playmates. You made that up. We have only met a few times, and each time, we only saw each other from afar at banquets. I have never spoken to you from the beginning to the end. How can we be childhood sweethearts and innocent playmates? Are you crazy? If you like to fantasize so much, why don't you go and draw pictures to satisfy your hunger? I am warning you, don't talk nonsense in front of my wife again. Otherwise, I will not let you off. Third young master Fu's eyes were cold. The consequences are not something you can bear. He must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Previously, he had been worried that it would not be good if the girl's reputation was ruined. He did not care about some messy rumors. Anyway, he was a man and did not care so much about his reputation, so he did not want to defend himself. But now, this shameless woman was talking nonsense in front of his Shuang. He could not let Shuang misunderstand. Only then did he realize that he couldn't have the slightest bit of pity for shameless people. Otherwise, he would be the only one suffering. Everyone looked at the pale Miss Bao in confusion, and then at the exasperated third young master Fu. Third young master's eyes were clearly saying, Please don't fall for me again, okay? What do you see in me? Tell me, can I change? This was completely a case of the heartless flowing brook. This Miss Bao was truly an honest person. She had set her heart on third young master Fu and was trying all sorts of ways to be with him. However, in the young master's heart, there was not a single bit of her. At this moment, the young crown prince consort spread her hands and said, Let them get married tomorrow. Since it was true love, the two of them also had each other in their hearts. Imperial Mother could be considered to have facilitated a good thing. A long delay would lead to many dreams. She wanted them to get married quickly. I don't want this fourth young master of the Fu family to think about his cousin and go out to fool around with other innocent girls. It's really not good. The daughters of the prestigious families in the capital cannot suffer this. They can't marry into Marquis Ning's mansion for nothing and be a decoration. They can't just watch their husband and cousin being lovey-dovey every day. The little crown princess spoke in a serious manner, but Prince Mo's lips could not help but twitch. No, the more he looked at his wife's expressionless and serious face, the more adorable she was. Chapter 53:37. Her small appearance seemed to have struck his heart, causing him to be unable to tear his eyes away for some reason. When the madams and young Mrs. Present heard this, they were also extremely moved and grateful. They nodded repeatedly and said, "The crown princess is indeed thoughtful. Since this fourth young Master Fu has already expressed his true love like this, then we should facilitate their good deed as soon as possible." Right. The crown princess is extremely right. Miss Young bowed gratefully at the crown princess. We are all extremely grateful that the crown princess has worked so hard for our capital's young misses. Bao Cuaping was flabbergasted and swayed unsteadily. The young crown princess spoke again. "Why aren't you quickly carrying Miss Bao back to the estate? Look at her. She can't even stand properly after several tries. So pitiful." The little stoic shook her head and clicked her tongue. It's probably because she wasn't nourished in her mother's womb when she was young. That's why her cerebellum developed unevenly when she grew up. She even staggered a bit when she walked. Quickly carry her back. She really has to take good care of her body, or else it really will be especially difficult for her to give birth in the future. Even if she can barely give birth, it might also be Psy. She'll end up with a lifetime of illnesses. Women really have to treat themselves especially well. Miss Bao, you have to pay attention and take care of your body. Everyone, you're truly vicious. Saying such things, these words would definitely spread to every nook and cranny of the capital tomorrow. Everyone would know that this Miss Bao was malnourished since she was young and that her body was frail when she grew up, so it would be especially difficult for her to give birth. It seemed like the crown princess had already reminded Miss Bao to take good care of her body more than once. What kind of person was the crown princess? She was a great pill master that everyone in the capital didn't know about. The crown princess's pill skills had spread throughout the 3 provinces. She could even revive Her Majesty the Empress, who had been frozen in ice for so many years. As one could well imagine, the crown princess's iron-mouthed words were definitely true. The madams present all sighed when they heard this and thought that it was fortunate that they had excluded the Bao family from the start when they were choosing daughters-in-law. Especially since Bao Cuaping, after third young Master Fu's reputation all these years, it didn't sound too good. Not many madams from wealthy families would take a fancy to her. Fortunately, he didn't take a fancy to her. Otherwise, wouldn't he be in big trouble if he married such a congenitally stunted woman? Bao Cuaping was lifted up by 2 strong maidservants who came out from behind the crown princess. His face turned pale on the spot, and he fainted while foaming at the mouth. When everyone saw that he had really fainted, they were even more convinced of the little crown princess's irrefutable words. A madam shook her head and sighed inwardly. With a body like this, how can he help manage the household affairs of Marquis Ning Manor in the future? That's right. I'm really worried about the second madam of Marquis Ning's estate. She picked a daughter-in-law and finally chose her own niece. I'm still not feeling well. The crowd followed the commotion outside and watched as Bao Cuaping was carried back to Changningho estate by 2 servant girls. Although fourth young Master Fu was unwilling, he was also sent back. At night, the Empress's imperial edict came down. She ordered that fourth young Master Fu of Marquis Ning Manor and Miss Cuaping of the Bao family to get married the next day without further delay. As if struck by lightning, Madame Bao fainted on the spot when she received the imperial edict. Miss Bao cried the entire night. The next day, without any preparation, she braced herself and was escorted into the bridal sedan chair. She cried and wailed as she walked around the city, attracting a lot of attention. Chapter 53:38. In the end, Miss Bao was sent to Marquis Changningho's Fu, crying all the way. The commoners along the way all thought that something had happened. They even wondered if some poor family's young lady had been sent to ward off bad luck, and if her husband had died as soon as she entered the door. In the midst of this gossip, fourth young Master Fu and Miss Bao were sent to be a couple while it was still hot. All the madams in the capital applauded and cheered. Everyone said, fourth young Master Fu swore in public that he would love and protect Miss Bao for the rest of his life. The Empress was so touched that she immediately appointed a marriage between the two of them. They came the next day and got married. This matter inexplicably became a popular story, and everyone was talking about the drama between fourth young Master Fu and Miss Bao during their leisure time. There were also some busybodies who made this story into a play and put it on the stage, but this was all in the future. At this moment, the little crown princess was holding a bowl of holy rice porridge in her hands and looking at the eloquent and gesticulating Kai Chi in astonishment. She was stunned for a long time before she asked, "Is it true? Crown princess, you didn't see it. What this servant said is all true." Kai Chi said with exultation, "Early this morning, when Miss Bao went to offer tea to her aunt, she accidentally knocked over the teacup. This made Marquis Chong Ningho's wife very angry. Her aunt passed down a message on the spot, demoting Miss Bao to second madam, saying that she will be demoted to fourth young master's co-wife." The little crown princess couldn't help but be speechless. This Marquis Chong Ningho's Fu was full of weirdos, big and small. How could they do this? They got married yesterday and demoted her to a co-wife today? Marquis Chong Ningho's wife also said that if Miss Bao can't give birth to a son for the Fu within a year, she will demote Miss Bao to a concubine. It seems that Marquis Chong Ningho's wife heard the rumors and thought that her niece's body was weak and couldn't bear a child. I reckon that it won't be long before fourth young Master Fu takes a wife. The little crown princess stood there in a daze, holding the bowl. It was a long time before she found her voice. Then what about her husband? Won't her husband object? Husband? Oh, it's that fourth young master of Marquis Ning's mansion, right? I didn't hear what he did. Kai Chi curled her lips and said, "It should be a tacit admission." The little crown princess was stunned. She held the bowl and stared blankly for a while. But didn't he claim that his true feelings for Miss Bao would never change in this lifetime? Didn't he say that he yearned for Miss Bao and would treat her well for the rest of his life? Crown Prince Imo happened to enter the room at this time, and when he heard this, he quickly strode forward with a grin and took the bowl from his wife's hand. He bent down and tapped her small nose. "What do you think? Not everyone is like your husband, me. People like me who can say and do it are really rare in this world." As he spoke, he was still immensely pleased with himself. The little stoic glanced at him. Humph, this guy was really shameless. Not only did he praise himself, but he also knew how to show off. "Your Highness." As he spoke, Xiao Yi suddenly poked his head out the window. The night pavilion found out where that home Master Mu is. Prince Imo narrowed his eyes. He held Jojo's hand and turned to look at him. "Did you keep an eye on him?" "Yes." Xiao Yi nodded. "Your Highness and the Crown Princess can go over and take a look at any time." Imo Yin turned to look at his expressionless wife and held her small hand, asking, "Jojo, are we going now?" Arbor nodded slightly. "Yes." Chapter 53-39. The two of them quickly teleported to Changle Courtyard through the array disk of the Great City Protection Array. They stood at the entrance of the small courtyard and looked inside. The courtyard was in a mess, as if someone had rummaged through it several times. Xiao Yi followed behind the two of them and said in a low voice, "At first, Home Master Mu was not here. This subordinate found that she was moved here before dawn this morning. This subordinate felt that this matter was a little strange, so I sent people to secretly keep an eye on this place." Arbor raised her slender eyebrows. "Someone deliberately threw her here?" Xiao Yi nodded with certainty. "Yes. Crown Princess, at first, this subordinate thought that this heavenly fate might be up to something again. However, after staring at it for nearly 4 hours, the courtyard remained calm and tranquil, without a single ripple. It seems that this subordinate is overthinking." Arbor nodded. "Where is she?" Xiao Yi hurriedly said, "That young lady also went in not long ago. This subordinate asked our people to hide in the dark and did not stop her. Although I don't know why she is here, her face is extremely haggard." Arbor stopped in her tracks and whispered with a frown, "Mu Xiao Xue." Xiao Yi nodded vigorously. Arbor and Mo Lien looked at each other. Did Mu Xiao Xue also rush over to see her after hearing the news about her mother? It seemed that this daughter of hers was also considerate. Arbor gestured for Xiao Yi to lead the way. She and Mo Lien followed Xiao Yi to the small backyard unhurriedly. Xiao Yi pointed at the narrow and dark woodshed not far away and said softly, "That Miss Mu is inside now." Arbor grunted and pulled off the thick cloak wrapped around her body. Her small ears twitched slightly. Are they arguing? She seemed to have heard the sound of an argument drifting over with the wind from the woodshed. Yes. Emolien nodded affirmatively. "Let's go closer and take a look." Of course, Arbor readily agreed. She also wanted to see what the mother and daughter were up to. What was there to argue about at a time like this? At such a critical juncture, shouldn't they be more united and seek a way out together? Why did it seem like they were fighting each other? The two of them quietly floated over and removed the barrier created by the soundproof talisman without anyone noticing. No wonder the voice sounded faintly indistinct just now. It turned out that this Mu Xiaoxue was quite careful and deliberately made a soundproof talisman here. Once the barrier was removed, Mu Xiaoxue's ear-piercing screams fell into everyone's ears. "I'm not you. You're so unlucky that you might not be able to break through the triple transformation in your lifetime. I will definitely be able to complete these 3 modifications. Each one will be more perfect than the last." Slap! Xiao Mu pulled Emoli in closer. Through a small, low window, they just so happened to see a thin woman raising a trembling hand, seemingly using all the strength in her body to slap Mu Xiaoxue in the face with all her might. Xiaoxue, Xiaoxue's Xiaoxuan Arbor saw Mu Qingya again. She couldn't help but be a little startled. She didn't expect that after not seeing her for a while, Mu Qingya had lost so much weight that she couldn't recognize her at all. Arbor narrowed her eyes and carefully sized up Mu Qingya. Mu Xiaoxue seemed to have completely angered her. She was trembling all over and couldn't breathe properly. Chapter 5340. Mu Qingya's transformation couldn't be described as small. Even Arbor was shocked to see her through the window. It would have been fine if Mu Qingya had only lost a bit of weight. Her current appearance was completely skinny and out of shape. Her entire body was shriveled, as if she had lost all the moisture in her body. She looked like a walking corpse. Her hair was yellow and withered, hanging from her scalp in clumps. Her hands and feet were so shriveled that only bones were left, as if they would break at any moment. This woman was nowhere near the gentle, refined, and radiant appearance she remembered. Her eyes were lifeless and sunken, and her entire face had shrunk to the size of half a palm. She opened her mouth and wanted to speak, but was completely interrupted by Mu Xiaoxue's scolding. Mu Xiaoxue was like a madwoman, her hands moving up and down as she yelled, "Do you think I'm like you? I won't be like you. I just want to succeed in all 3 transformations. I can become the most perfect person in the world. And the patriarch has promised me, as long as I work hard for him in the future, he won't treat me badly. Even if I can't, I still have a universe reversal talisman to help me. I'll be fine. I still have a chance." Mu Qingya's sunken eyes were like full moons as she stared at her foolish daughter in front of her. Hot tears could not be stopped from falling inch by inch from those dried-up eyes. Mu Qingya reached out and hammered the ground with all her might. The sound coming from her throat was rough and full of sorrow, as if a carriage had run over her a dozen times. It's me. I've protected you too well. So you're actually so naive." Looking at her foolish daughter, Mu Qingya couldn't help but burst into tears. She had been in Tianyun for so many years, so she knew better than anyone the nature of the higher-ups. When they saw that you were useful to them, they would use some small benefits to tempt you. Once you lost any bit of value, you would die more miserably than anyone else. She knew this just by looking at her. She used her identity as the hall master of the soaring heavens hall to blend in with the talisman aristocratic family. She often helped them secretly gather supplies and deliver news in the capital. The organization treated her so well and put her in such important positions. However, once her identity was exposed and she was defeated or even forced to flee, her future opportunities would plummet. Tianyin does not need useless people to occupy resources. Moreover, she was just an ordinary person who didn't know anything. In the eyes of the upper echelons of Tianyin, she had already lost her value and was no longer worth them investing in her. That was why she ended up like this. If it weren't for the fact that the organization still wanted to investigate the second drug reaction in her body, they probably wouldn't have gone to Snow Island to rescue her. Hate. Of course, she hated him. Mu Qingyao's life had turned out like this. Regret? She couldn't explain it clearly. There should be some, but if she hadn't joined Tianyin, then she would have been an ordinary housewife for the rest of her life. She spent all her time with her parents-in-law and husband. She was just an ordinary woman in the inner courtyard. Naturally, she was even more unwilling to accept such a life. Mother, what are you saying? Not only are you not happy for me, you're even cursing me now. Mu Xiaoxue yelled. Do you think your daughter will be as unlucky as you? Chapter 53:41. Impossible, I'm telling you. That's impossible. Daughter will never be like you, mother. Daughter wasn't ruthless enough and didn't act ruthlessly enough. That's why you were trampled underfoot by that damn bitch. Daughter won't. Daughter has a way to deal with her right now. Family head said that as long as daughter successfully completes 2 body modifications, he will give me the universe reversal talisman. At that time, daughter's talent will skyrocket. Ha 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 ha. Mu Xiaoxue laughed maniacally. Mother, daughter will accomplish what you can't accomplish in your lifetime. Oh, Xiaoxue. Mu Qingya cried until her entire body trembled. Her sunken eyes stared at her daughter in disbelief. You can't beat her, Mu Qingya said shakily. Even she had been defeated by that little stoic, and she had been defeated so miserably. She understood her daughter very well. She definitely couldn't win against that little girl who was as cunning as a fox, bold, and ruthless. Shut up, Mu Xiaoxue roared at Mu Qingya sternly. She pounded her chest with one hand and screamed at the top of her lungs. You're looking down on me. You're looking down on a normal person like me for being able to turn the tables, right? Let me tell you, Mother, I'm Mu Xiaoxue. I'm different from you. She waved her hand vigorously and roared neurotically. Family head has already promised me. Mu Xiaoxue tilted her head, and her eyes also moved dully. She opened her mouth wide and gasped for breath. An abnormal, silly smile appeared on her face. Mother, I will succeed. She patted her chest hard, pounding it again and again, but her body didn't feel any pain. It was as if he wasn't hammering his own body, but an ordinary piece of wood. Let me tell you, I'm not as stupid as you. Look at yourself. You're already so old, but in the end, what do you have, huh? Instead of being Madame Mu, you've become like this, neither human nor ghost. The Mu family expelled you, and the organization doesn't like you. You're nothing. Xiao Shui. Mu Qingya opened her mouth and allowed her tears, snot, and saliva to flow all over her face. All she could see was Mu Xiaoshue's arrogant and insufferably arrogant face. You will regret it, daughter. You will regret it. I won't. Mu Xiaoxue yelled angrily. My legs were broken back then. Where were you? If I didn't accept the transformation to save myself, would I still be standing in front of you now? I will be like a beggar, like a tramp. I will be as dirty and smelly as you. I won't even have the right to stand up. Me, I, Mu Xiaoxue, will definitely become the most talented person in the world. Everything that woman has now will be mine in the future. Her divine realm cultivation, her holy wood, holy water, and her spirit domain. Ha! It's all mine, mother. Ha! It's all mine, mother. Do you know? I'm so happy now. Mu Xiaoxue burst into a series of crazy laughter. His entire body was like a strange branch that was shaking in the wind, as crazy as a lunatic. Xiaoyu was so angry that he pressed the sword at his waist. but was stopped by a look from Sir Jojo. Arbor raised his hand and gently patted Mo Lian's cold hand. Chapter 5342. Sir Jojo comforted his infuriated husband and secretly transmitted his voice to the two of them. Don't bother with this idiot. Let her continue to wander in her own spiritual world. Just continue to watch the show. The universe reversal charm? Arbor couldn't help but laugh coldly. That would depend on whether she had the fate and luck to open the talisman. Mu Qingya stared dumbfoundedly at her daughter, who was acting like a lunatic. She sighed repeatedly and sobbed. Xiao Shui, wake up. You can't beat her. Can you stop? Mother doesn't want you to be rich or have a meteoric rise. Mother just wants you to live well. Xiao Shui, listen to Mother's advice. Stop. Shut up. Mu Xiaoxue shouted, startling Arbor and the others who were hiding outside the door. Her voice was so sharp that it was unbearable. Her eyes were bloodshot as she stared sharply at the dying Mu Qingya in front of her and said word by word, Mother, do you know how much I hate you? Arbor couldn't see Mu Xiaoxue's expression through the window, but he could clearly see that Mu Qingya's eyes were filled with shock as she stared blankly at her daughter. It was as if she had never understood this daughter of hers and only now realized her true colors. I really hate you to death. Xiao Shui. Mu Qingya's voice trembled and her face was filled with disbelief as she stared blankly at her daughter. Xiao Shui, shut up, don't talk. Mu Xiaoxue roared hysterically. My entire life has been ruined by you. It's all your fault, all your fault. It's fine that you're unlucky to be an ordinary person without any cultivation. But you still have the face to be my mother. You harm me like this. You cause me to be unable to activate my mystic meridians and cultivate the right path. You cause your own daughter to be an ordinary person who can only struggle at death's door and rely on others for the rest of her life. How can you be at peace with yourself? How can you face me like this? Mu Xiaoxue screamed and pointed crazily at Mu Qingya, who was lying in the corner. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. If my mother was like the other madams, had cultivation and talent, and was as strong as Long Chuyun, would I have become like this today? Do I need to be jealous of others? Do I need to compromise and beg my grandparents for a universe reversal talisman that can change my talent? Mu Qingya, this is all your fault. If you weren't so useless, would I have ended up in such a miserable state because of you? Mu Xiaoxue shrieked, her eyes filled with twisted hatred and anger. I hate you to death. I hate you to death. Mu Qingya was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at her daughter, whom she had doted on since she was a child, and could not bear to let her suffer any grievances. She felt dizzy, and her empty eyes stared at her daughter, who looked like a complete stranger. Mu Qingya's body was like a dried-up piece of wood. Not a single drop of water could be squeezed out. She couldn't even shed a single tear. She felt as if someone had punched a hole in her heart. A gust of cold wind was blowing in from the outside. Her daughter hated her. Her daughter actually hated her so much. She hated her. How ironic was this? Chapter 5343. Everything she did was for this daughter of hers. She wholeheartedly wanted her daughter to be well, but in the end, she received her daughter's disregard for her own family. Hate her. Her daughter said she hated her. Mu Qingya's body had long stopped feeling cold, but at this moment, it was as if her heart had been frozen 3 feet deep and sunk into a bottomless abyss. Her mind buzzed involuntarily, and her nostrils flared as she huffed and puffed, as if it was difficult for her to even breathe. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, several crisp claps sounded outside the woodshed. The mother and daughter duo, who were in the middle of a confrontation, stiffened at the same time, and they stiffly turned their heads to look at the door. They saw a pregnant woman dressed in rippling red clothes, expressionlessly clapping her hands as she coolly watched the mother and daughter duo. A handsome and otherworldly man dressed in brocade was supporting her as they strode into the narrow and dark woodshed together. The mother and daughter duo were momentarily dazzled by the myriad rays of light. They only felt that when this pair of jade paragons walked in, Even this gloomy and cramped woodshed seemed much brighter than before. Splendid, splendid. The little stoic nodded and praised in all seriousness. Today's show was worth watching. This kind of mother and daughter falling out, and the daughter directly rebuking the mother, was truly a once-in-a-lifetime scene. Mu Qingya shuddered and tried to crawl up with difficulty, but because she had completely lost her strength, she fell heavily again. Her head leaned against the stiff pile of firewood behind her, and a trace of fear and sorrow slid through her eyes. She knew very well that her and her daughter's lives would most likely be forfeit after falling into the hands of this pair of fiends. Mu Qingya, does it hurt? The little stoic suddenly tilted her head and asked. Mu Qingya shuddered and stared at her in horror. She raised her trembling finger and pointed at Arbor as she stammered, You. Arbor suddenly smiled at her, and his gaze seemed to imperceptibly sweep past Mu Xiaoxue. Mu Xiaoxue's back was facing him earlier, so he didn't see her expression. Now that he saw it, Arbor couldn't help but be secretly speechless. It turned out that when a person's mind was twisted, it would affect her charming face that was like a little white flower. Mu Xiaoxue's face seemed a lot rougher than before. Of course, this was closely related to her life of fear and trepidation during this period of time. But at this moment, Mu Xiaoxue's face was so contorted that it was almost deformed. Her pair of eyes were twisted into triangles. How interesting. Arbor ignored Mu Qingya and glanced coldly at Mu Xiaoxue. What are you doing? Mu Xiaoxue's eyes widened in horror as she took a few steps back. When he turned around, he saw more than 10 black-clothed shadow guards swarming to the door, blocking the door of the woodshed. She simply could not escape. Her palms were covered in cold sweat, and her hands and feet were trembling as she stood there. Weren't you talking nonsense just now? Xiao Yi sneered and scolded angrily. Miss Mu, you're quite capable. Could it be that the heaven and earth reversal charm you spoke of really has such a great effect? With a single talisman, you can transfer the talent, and luck of others to yourself? No, it's not. Mu Qingya's entire body trembled as she shouted harshly. It's not. Crown Princess, Your Highness the Crown Prince. This is all the nonsense of a child. Chapter 5344. It's not true, Crown Princess, Your Highness, it's not true. There's no such talisman in the world that this child is talking nonsense about. I do. Xiao Mu smiled faintly, her voice gentle. What? Mu Qingya's heart tightened, and she couldn't help but tremble a few times. There's such a talisman in the world. Arbor looked at the mother and daughter expressionlessly and said coldly, Is this how you draw the heaven and earth twist? As she spoke, she casually raised her hand and swiped it. Her hand moved very quickly, and a talisman flashing with purple light appeared in the air in a matter of minutes. She reached out and pushed the talisman. The cursed seal slammed into Mu Xiaoxue's body with a bang, causing her to fall backwards. She threw her head back and smashed into the wall with a thump and spat out a mouthful of blood. Arbor curled his lips, and a mocking look flashed through his eyes. Hurry up and exchange with me. Talent, cultivation, everything is at your fingertips. Mu Xiaoxue lunged forward crazily and looked like she was going to fight Arbor to the death. A harsh glint flashed past Crown Prince Mo's eyes, and he directly kicked this woman to the side. Disgusting thing. Mu Xiaoxue's body trembled, and she couldn't help but tremble. Why? Why was she still so pitiful? Why? Mu Xiaoxue glared at Mo Lien and Arbor from the corner of her eyes. Her heart was burning with anger. She kept telling herself in her heart, Why are they looking down on me? Why? It wasn't the first time that this high and mighty crown prince had glanced at her with such a cold gaze. She clearly was not the least bit inferior to Xiao Mu. Why is it that in everyone's eyes, Arbor is like the stars in the sky, and I'm just a pile of mud under their feet? One day, I'll change my fate. One day, I'll let everyone know that I, Mu Xiaoxue, am not a piece of trash. I'm a woman that everyone will applaud. And that crown prince, I've changed my mind. I'll find a way to seduce him and make him fall in love with me without hesitation. Then I'll kick him away. Slap, slap. Arbor slapped Mu Xiaoshue's mouth twice and completely stopped the unrealistic thoughts in her mind. Her entire body shuddered as she fearfully met Xiao Mu's icy gaze. "If you look at your husband like that again, I'll kill you right now." Arbor's cold and emotionless voice made Mu Xiaoshue's trembling heart fall into the depths of an ice lake. That's right, that's right. Right now, even her survival might be a big problem. Your Highness, Crown Princess. This matter has nothing to do with my daughter, Xiao Shui. I beg the two of you to be magnanimous and let go of my daughter. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Mu Qingya half crawled on the ground and wriggled her filthy and smelly body like a maggot, trying to get closer to Arbor. Crown Prince Imo pursed his lips and directly raised his hand, setting up a shielding barrier in front of the two people. It kept Mu Qingya outside and prevented her from taking half a step closer. Mu Qingya had no choice but to slap the barrier and cry out tearfully, "Crown Prince Consort, just kill me. Just kill me. I know. I'm sorry. It's all my fault." Chapter 53:45. I'm the one who harmed your mother, Long Chuyan. It's me. I'm the one who's petty and jealous of her talent. I schemed against her. I coveted her 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl. It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with Xiao Shui. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's me. Please let my daughter go. She's innocent. Mu Qingya prostrated herself on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. I'm willing to die. I'm willing to do anything. Please let her go. Let her go. She's younger than you. If your mother, Long Chuyun, was still alive, she definitely wouldn't have been implicated in this matter. Shut up. Arbor roared angrily. His black eyes were like the stars in the cold night sky, shooting out a cold light. Why do you have to mention her again? You still have the face to mention her? My mother is not someone you can mention. Don't let me hear you spit out those 3 words again. You don't have the right. Mu Qingya's body trembled. She nodded repeatedly and kowtowed again. I know. Crown Princess, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my wishful thinking. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done this, Crown Princess. The little Crown Princess looked at her coldly. The corners of her lips curled up coldly. Does it hurt? Mu Qingya looked at her in shock. This was the second time today that the Crown Princess had asked her if it hurt. This terrifying question made Mu Qingya's entire body turn cold. She could barely speak normally. However, Arbor didn't seem to want her to answer. He turned and waved at Mu Xiaoshue. Mu Xiaoshue, I'll give you a chance to live. Crawl out of here in 5 minutes. As long as you can get out of the door, I'll let you go. A trace of extreme grief and indignation flashed past Mu Xiaoshue's eyes. She glared at Arbor hatefully and opened her mouth. It seems like you don't need this chance. Just as Xiao Mu's frigid voice rang out, she heard Mu Qingya banging on the wall as she repeatedly shouted, No, that's not it, Crown Prince Consort. Xiao Shui is willing. She is willing. Mu Xiaoshue glared at Mu Qingya, and her resentment towards her mother rose to a new height. The humiliation she had suffered today was all because of her, because of this useless mother. She hated Mu Qingya to death. She hated everyone in the world to death. The little crown princess glanced at him coldly, and Xiao Yi unsheathed his sword without hesitation. No matter how furious Mu Xiaoshue was, she could not help but kneel down in front of the tip of the sword, even though she was in a rage. He fell to the ground with a plop, wailing loudly as he struggled to crawl forward. Arbor looked at her coldly. You only have 5 minutes. Are you sure you want to waste it? Mu Xiaoshue burst into tears, but with a little more strength, she crawled out of the woodshed. She didn't dare to look at the black-clothed shadow guards on both sides of the woodshed. Those people's expressions must be full of disdain. She didn't dare to look or even listen to anything. She could only grit her teeth and crawl forward with all her might. It took a while to walk from the woodshed to the door, not to mention that she was so angry that her hands and feet were trembling. She had to crawl all the way. Her fair palms rubbed against the ground, leaving streaks of blood. Mu Xiaoshue bit her lips so hard that they were bleeding. This kind of humiliation, this kind of torture, she, Mu Xiao Shui, would remember it deep in her heart. Chapter 5346. Arbor. One day, she, Mu Xiao Shui, would make her die a horrible death. Mu Qingya knelt on the ground and knocked on the wall in front of her, howling incoherently. She's your cousin, even if it's for the sake of the old man. You can't treat her like this. Mu Qiao, you're not human. You're not human. Do you have a heart? Do you have a heart? Mu Qingya howled, the pain in her heart indescribable. She felt as if someone had stabbed her heart dozens of times with a sharp knife. Every stab was enough to kill her. She was in pain and sorrow, angry and helpless. She was as insignificant as a grain of sand in the dust. She could be trampled into the depths of the abyss. Mo Lien sneered. You still have the cheek to ask Jojo if he has a heart? You schemed against her in the lower galaxy. You harmed her mother and didn't even let her go. Why didn't you let Jojo go for the sake of Grandpa? Why didn't you let Jojo go? Now that you've lost, you've suffered a crushing defeat, you're saying such things. Do you think anyone will pity you? Mu Qingya lay on the ground in a daze. Yet Xiao Mu chuckled lightly as she gazed at her indifferently. Mu Qingya, does it hurt? Mu Qingya shuddered and looked at the girl in disbelief. This was the third time she had asked her this question. Her deranged mind suddenly snapped back to reality, and her body started to tremble uncontrollably. It's you. It's you. It's me. Arbor nodded. It's me who destroyed your precious daughter's mind step by step and forced her to go to Tianyun and ask for the mutation pill from the higher-ups. It's me who made her feel the unjust fate in this world, the miserable life, and the hopeless future. It's also me who destroyed her bit by bit. Look, she hates you so much now. Wow, you're so hateful to your own daughter whom you've raised single-handedly, pointing and scolding so irrationally. Xiao Mu stroked her chest. It hurts a lot here, right? You must be in so much pain that you wish you were dead. I really want to die right now. She pursed her lips and smiled. She probably couldn't remember how many times she had laughed today. However, her smile remained at the corner of her mouth and did not reach the depths of her eyes. Mu Qingya, Home Master Mu. My good stepmother. Do you understand now? You know how my mother felt at that time. That feeling of being despised by everyone, having no brothers, no friends, no lover, and not even being able to protect her children. That terrifying feeling, right? Huh. Arbor suddenly laughed out loud. Do you like it? Do you like being treated like this? Arbor tilted his head and asked innocently, My mother also experienced this feeling. When she's in the sky, she can't protect me. I could only watch as you turned me into a test subject and manipulated me like a marionette for the rest of my life. Let me think my mother's heartache at that time should be the same as what you're feeling now. So I want you to feel what it's like to be unable to breathe from heartache. Is it fun? Mu Qingya's whole body trembled, and her breathing quickened as she stared at him blankly. Devil. Chapter 5347. Mu Qingya's expression was full of shock and fear. Her eyes were wide open as she stared at Arbor. Her mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't make a sound for a long time. After a long time, only then did Mu Qingya hysterically roar at Xiao Mu. Devil, you're a devil. Was she crazy? How could she scheme against her innocent and pitiful daughter like this? What did Xiao Shui do wrong to deserve such treatment? The beautiful and expressionless girl in front of her was a devil, a devil. She didn't expect her to be a transmigrated woman with an innate advantage. With such a rich life experience and all kinds of skills, she was actually defeated by a malicious spirit that crawled out of hell. Mu Qingya couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it. She lingered on for so long not to see Xiao Shui suffer like this, not to see her daughter suffer like this. She had been fighting with the heavens, fighting with her own fate. In the end, what did she gain? You schemed against her? Why? Mu Qingya pounded her chest in grief, revealing a heartbroken expression. She's only 16, and she's your cousin. She's deeply related to you by blood. Do you have a conscience for scheming against your own cousin like this? Don't you feel a trace of shame or regret? It's all your fault, Arbor said expressionlessly. Looking at Mu Qingya, who was pounding the ground in front of the barrier, a faint trace of coldness appeared at the corner of his mouth. If I didn't do this, how could I see your heartbroken expression right now? Arbor looked at her indifferently. She had seen enough of the drama, and she didn't want to see Mu Qingya ever again. Can't you just come at me? Why did you scheme against a little girl like her? She's innocent. Mu Qingya pounded the barrier in front of her, trembling as she yelled. She was now in a state of madness. Her whole body was trembling, and her teeth were chattering. Innocent? Xiao Mu couldn't help but look at her in amusement. None of Tianyun's minions are innocent. That was because you forced her to join Tianyun. She has no other path to take, so she can only join them. Mu Qingya pointed at Xiao Mu with a trembling finger. She screamed at the top of her lungs. What do you want in order for you to let her go? What will it take for you to let her live? Arbor stared at her coldly. Do you think Mu Xiaoxue can still survive? His words were like a bucket of ice water, drenching Mu Qingya from head to toe, and a chill spread from the bottom of her heart. Fear and panic were not enough to describe her current feelings. Mu Qingya pounced on the barrier like a mad woman, banging her head against the transparent barrier as she shouted, Mu Qiao, Mu Qiao, let her go. I beg you, let her go. Whatever you have, come at me. Come at me. Arbor smiled coldly at her, and there was a trace of coldness in his voice. How did you control my fate back then? How did you make a fool of me? Now, I'll return it to your daughter. It's very fair, isn't it? Let her, let you, and let both of you have a taste of that pain and despair. Let go through a life of being controlled again. Chapter 53:48. You can open your eyes wide and see how your precious daughter will end up miserably in the end. When your daughter has experienced all this misfortune, Qingya will be dead. Mu Qingya, the debt between us from 2 lifetimes will be considered settled. In the next life, you won't know me, and I won't know you. If you don't look for me, I won't look for you. It's very fair. As soon as Arbor finished speaking, Mu Qingya's entire body turned cold, and she collapsed to the ground. She couldn't believe her ears. How terrifying was Arbor? He actually took revenge on her innocent and pitiful daughter. Don't worry, she won't die for the time being. Arbor tilted his head, a cold glint in his eyes as he stared deeply at Mu Qingya. Mother! Mother! A shout came from outside the door, accompanied by the sound of many hidden guards pulling out their swords. Mother! Mother! Is it you, Mother? Is it you who is here? Arbor frowned slightly and said indifferently to the door, Let her in. A thin and tall figure rushed in, stumbling and stumbling. She tripped over a small pile of firewood at the door, then steadied herself and quickly ran to Mu Qingya's side. Arbor turned to look at this extremely thin woman. Mu Rochuan knelt on the ground with a thud and reached out with trembling hands to support Mu Qingya. However, she was bounced back by a transparent barrier. Mother! Mu Rochuan was shocked and hurriedly turned to Arbor. Let my mother go. What did you do to her? She's already so old, but she's still so thin. Why won't you let her go? Crown Princess, my mother is already like this. She won't live for more than a few days. No matter how many grudges we had in the past, we can write them off now, right? No matter what, we're family. Why must we fight to the death? Arbor looked at her coldly for a moment, then raised his sleeve and removed the barrier between them. Mu Rochuan hurriedly went forward to support Mu Qingya, only to see that her face was as white as a sheet, and her lips were completely pale. Mother, mother! Mu Rochuan called out to her several times with tears in her eyes. Mu Qingya, on the other hand, seemed to be in a trance before her death. She suddenly grabbed her arm tightly. Her strength was so great that Mu Rochuan was shocked. She couldn't help but look at her face. Mu Qingya grabbed her hand tightly and said coldly, Rochuan, Rochuan, you have to help your sister. You have to help her, okay? You owe me. You owe me. You have to protect your sister at all costs. You have to protect her from anyone. You want to use your life to exchange for your sister's life. Did you hear that? Do you hear me? Mu Qingya yelled like a madwoman. With tears in her eyes, Mu Rochuan lowered her head and nodded while choking with sobs. Rochuan, You don't owe her anything. You don't have to agree to anything. A man's angry shout came from behind. Mu Rochuan was a little dazed for a moment. She looked back with teary eyes and choked up as she called out, "Big brother." Mu Xingqian's face was full of anger. He stared coldly at Mu Qingya and said, "Mu Qingya, what right do you have to make Rochuan agree to these things? It's very simple. She's a person who stole Mu Rochuan's birth mother's life to replace her. From the start, she never intended to give birth to Mu Rochuan." Chapter 5349. She has no feelings for Mu Rochuan at all. In terms of feelings, she has never admitted that Mu Rochuan is her biological daughter. The only biological daughter she has acknowledged is Mu Xiaoxue. Shut up, Arbor, shut up." Mu Qingya roared crazily, not daring to look at Mu Rochuan, who was supporting her. "Why do you have to talk about me? Arbor, you're just a ghost, a malicious spirit that crawled out of hell. You're not you at all. Gag her mouth and drag her out." Mo Yin's eyes darkened as he coldly ordered. Arbor didn't care. If she wanted to say it, then let her say it. Everyone here knew and believed in the concept of possession. As for rebirth, no one seemed to have thought of that, so it didn't matter if she spread it everywhere. Even if someone believed it, so what? The Arbor of today was no longer the Arbor of the past. Even if she was the reincarnation of a malicious spirit, no one would be able to hurt her in the slightest. But Mo Yin still didn't want to hear this woman's nonsense. She ordered someone to shut Mu Qingya's mouth and drag her out. Mu Qingya whimpered, her eyes filled with resentment and coldness as she glared at the Crown Prince and Arbor. In the end, she wanted to reach out and grab Mu Rochuan, but Mu Rochuan subconsciously retracted her hand and avoided her. You're telling the truth, aren't you? Isn't that right?" Mu Rochuan stared at Xiao Mu in shock, her eyes brimming with tears as she questioned. Arbor glanced at her. "I'm not interested in lying, nor do I have a reason to lie to you. In fact, you've had your suspicions for a long time, haven't you? You're both her daughters, but don't you have eyes to see her attitude toward you and Mu Xiaoxue? Can't you tell? If you've never suspected, then I can only tell you that you're very stupid." Mu Rochuan's breathing stopped as she stood there in a daze, unable to regain her senses for a long time. Did she admit herself? Mu Rochuan felt her hands and feet turn cold. The answer that she had been searching for all these years seemed to finally have an explanation at this moment, however. This explanation made people feel incomparable despair. Her biological mother had been possessed and died a long time ago. All these years, the person who had accompanied him by his side was actually a vicious woman. All the effort she had made, all the things she had done to please her mother, the improvement liquid, the mutation pill, and the transformation of her tissues. Looking at it now, it was just a joke. Roxian. Mu Xingqian sighed and looked at her silently. Mu Qingya isn't a good person. Don't fall for her tricks again, Mu Xingqian said. You don't owe her anything. You don't have to think about exchanging your life for Mu Xiaoxue's. She doesn't deserve you to treat her like this. Your Highness, Crown Princess. Xiao Yi suddenly flashed through the door and found a strange expression on his face. Something's happening. What's going on? Prince Mo glanced at him, took Arbor's little hand, and walked out. Something seems to be happening in the heavenly Tao. Xiao Yi pointed in the direction of the sky and said with a puzzled expression, I don't know why, but as soon as our people pulled Mu Qingya out, large dark clouds surged in the sky. It seems that there's going to be a lightning tribulation. Mo Yin and his wife looked at each other in dismay. Chapter 5350. Why would it send down a lightning tribulation for no reason? Mo Yin looked down and saw his wife's expression as if she was facing a great enemy. He suddenly had the urge to laugh. Why was his wife on guard against heavenly law every time? In reality, heavenly law had never once come to find trouble with her. She was the one who experienced a tribulation every time, implicating others with 8 lifetimes of bad luck. This kind of thing happened too many times, causing his wife to be paranoid every time. She always felt that heavenly law was slowly plotting to kill her in one strike. Arbor was expressionlessly led out of the woodshed by his husband, and he looked up at the sky with a gloomy face. The little stoic stood with her hands behind her back and gloomily stared at the cloud-filled sky for a long time. "Hubby, hurry and open your fire and thunder umbrella." This guy urged with a stoic face and forcefully tugged at Lien's sleeve. Sir Jojo had a strong premonition. The lightning tribulation this time didn't seem to be that simple. Could it be that heavenly law felt increasingly indignant after letting Jojo off the last few times, so it ran over to pick a fight and wait for an opportunity to take revenge? The little stoic's eyes were cold, and she looked up at the sky with a solemn expression. "Everyone, pay attention!" An unknown hidden guard roared with joy, and the courtyard inexplicably felt like it was in chaos. They saw a dazzling red heavenly flame shoot down from the sky. In a split second, everyone felt like their eyes were about to be blinded by that dazzling red color. Then they heard a loud boom. Lien held a fire and thunder umbrella and silently glanced in the direction where the flame fell. It was very far from where they were standing. It was very obvious that this heavenly flame wasn't directed at the paranoid Sir Jojo. It was clearly directed at Mu Qingya. At this time, Mu Qingya was completely enveloped by a ball of raging flames. She was wrapped in a ball of burning heavenly flame from head to toe, and she suddenly let out maniacal laughter. When Mu Rochuan rushed out, she just happened to see Mu Qingya raise her hands like a lunatic and look up at the sky. She laughed maniacally and roared angrily. Come, I've had enough of this useless body. Heavenly Tao, use the flames to cleanse and burn my body. This way, my soul can return to the past. Ha ha ha, I can go back. Ha ha ha, I can finally go back. My time is waiting for me. My future is waiting for me. Heavenly Tao, you can't fool me. I will go back. In the end, I will still return my own era. Ha 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 ha. I will change my body and continue living. Ha. Mu Rochuan looked at the crazy woman in shock. Under the blazing heavenly fire, she was still laughing crazily and murmuring some strange words to herself. Mu Rochuan could even see that under the burning of the heavenly fire, the woman's skin was rapidly drained of moisture. Her arms and legs were completely broken, and she fell into the flames. Mu Qingya, however, was still oblivious to it. She continued to wail and howl. In the end, her head was completely struck by the heavenly fire, and her body was burned to ashes, not even leaving behind a trace of ash. Mu Rochuan stared blankly at the scene before her and stammered, Where did she say her soul would go? Mu Xingqian shook his head. The might of the heavenly fire is unparalleled. Mu Qingya's soul has already been shattered by the heavenly fire and scattered between heaven and earth. Rochuan, Mu Qingya has already completely disappeared. She can't go back. Mu Rochuan shuddered. Chapter 53-51. Was this Mu Qingya's final ending? She had completely disappeared from every corner of the world. The first madam of the Talisman family, the high-spirited Hall Master Mu of Heavenly Fate, had ended up with her soul scattered and a miserable ending. The last thing she did before she disappeared was not what she, Mu Rochuan, had imagined. She looked at her eldest daughter one last time, hugged her, and even softly wished her happiness. Nothing. Mu Qingya was even stingy with showing her a warm smile. Her last words were to use her life to protect Xiao Shui and protect her younger sister with all her might. Mu Rochuan smiled bitterly. The old scar on her face was like a trembling centipede, and it opened a little sinisterly. Arbor turned his head and subconsciously glanced at her. This half-sister of his looked very haggard. Her body Arbor looked at her, and his gaze froze. Seeing this, Mu Xingqian's body also stiffened. He asked with a slightly nervous expression, Jojo, is there something wrong with Rochuan's body? Xiao Mu cast an indifferent glance at Mu Rochuan. Ask her. Other than herself, no one knows her body better than her. Then he paused for a moment and asked indifferently, Mu Rochuan, You've already started the second stage of improvement, right? Have you felt anything wrong with your body recently? Mu Rochuan's body trembled, and she looked at Arbor with a complicated expression. Mu Xingqian looked over in shock and shouted angrily, Rochuan, you actually took Heavenly Fate's improved medicine? You're really muddle-headed. Muddle-headed. Mu Xingqian's exasperated expression fell into Mu Rochuan's eyes and deeply stimulated her heart. Mu Rochuan suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs, Do you think I wanted this? Big brother, we grew up together. Where were you when father crippled my cultivation and pushed me out to self-destruct? Where were you when I was in that corner of the branch family, not having enough to eat, not having enough to wear, and being bullied everywhere? No one will help my big brother. No one in this world will stand by my side and help me. Mu Rochuan suddenly covered her face and cried. Her cries were miserable and filled with despair. She's the only one in your eyes. Mu Rochuan pointed at Arbor and screamed, There's only her, not me. Big brother, do you know? It turns out that my life is a tragedy. I, Mu Rochuan, don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Before she appeared, I always felt that my talisman drawing talent was #1 in the world. Ha ha ha. Who would have thought that I would be a complete joke in everyone's eyes? I fought with her, I fought with my family. I was the only one who fought for my unfair fate. What about you guys? None of them stood by my side. Even my big brother, who has been with me for so many years, could lose me just like that. To be able to completely disregard my life or death. Mu Xingqian stood there in a daze, unable to say anything. Rochuan's complaints should have accumulated in her heart for a long time. Now that they suddenly erupted, it was like a volcano erupting. The various negative emotions that had accumulated in the bottom of her heart endlessly spread. Big brother, what does she have and what do I have? Even my mother is fake. Mu Rochuan choked with sobs. Chapter 53-52. Even my mother is a fake. You're right, Arbor. Mu Rochuan lowered her head and took a step back. I'm stupid. I didn't even suspect Mother's true identity when she gave me the improved medicine. It wasn't until I saw Xiao Shui that I deeply felt that Mother's attitude toward me was completely different from her attitude toward Xiao Shui, because I've always held onto a sliver of hope. Now that I look like a cripple, perhaps if I listen to my mother, I will be able to win her favor. I've never refuted her. Arbor, do you know? Before you appeared, at least she was still Mu Rochuan choked with sobs and almost couldn't continue. She still treated me as her daughter. Although she's always been cold and indifferent to me without much tenderness, at least she wouldn't break my heart like this. She wouldn't make me despair. You won, Arbor. I'm a complete loser. I'm inferior to you. Mu Rochuan laughed and turned to leave in a daze. However, an extremely icy voice entered her ears. You were never my match. Mu Xingqian's heart couldn't help but tremble. He almost couldn't bear to look at Rochuan's expression. He could imagine how despaired and defeated she must be right now. When the little stoic was soft and adorable, it could melt your heart. However, when she was cold-blooded and heartless, it would give birth to an indescribable fear. Mu Rochuan's departing figure staggered slightly before she suddenly left in large strides while laughing maniacally. Yes, how ironic. The imaginary enemy she wholeheartedly thought of didn't care about her at all. Was there anything more humiliating than this? Mu Rochuan practically covered her face and fled in defeat. She didn't dare to look back, let alone glance at the people behind her. Arbor, this cold-hearted and emotionless woman, knew how to destroy a person's willpower with one sentence. Mu Xingqian stood there in a daze and watched Mu Rochuan's fleeing figure. He let out a long sigh. Jojo, what do you think will happen to Rochuan in the end? Her body already shows signs of crumbling and turning into a corpse. This means that she hasn't changed for the better, Arbor said indifferently. Her expression was extremely ice-cold. It was as if there was simply no relationship between her and Mu Rochuan. In the end, there are only two outcomes. First, if the modification was successful, it would become a perfect walking corpse. The best result might be that it would have its own thoughts. Secondly, the improvement would fail completely. Her physical body would collapse and turn into a pile of mud. Mu Xingqin's body trembled, and his voice trembled slightly. Can we help her, Jojo? Arbor glanced at her elder brother and sighed softly. Instead of answering, he asked, Elder brother, do you think Mu Rochuan will accept my help? If Mu Rochuan wanted to save herself, she would naturally ask Mu Xingqin for help. But she didn't do that. It was obvious that Mu Rochuan didn't think that she needed to be treated. Arbor wasn't born with the halo of a Virgin Mary. She didn't have to save everyone she saw. Since Mu Roxian had asked Big Brother for help, she naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. But if the other party didn't ask, she wouldn't necessarily be willing to meddle in other people's business. The little stoic's question dumbstruck Mu Xingqin. He stood there in a daze, unable to speak. That's right. How could Rochuan accept Jojo's help with her arrogant personality? Chapter 53-53. Back then, when Rochuan was struck by lightning, she refused Jojo's help no matter what and treated Jojo rudely. The scene was still vivid in his mind. One could imagine how much Rochuan hated Jojo in her heart. With her pride and loftiness, it was impossible for her to beg Jojo, even if this plea could save her life and perhaps give her a new life. After all, after Mr. Su of Beiwang Valley met up with Fairy Huang, he and the others, the research and development of the antidote had entered a rapid development stage. After a period of experimentation and final research, they should be able to successfully develop a solution that could overcome or save her. But the premise of all this was that Rochuan had to speak up and say that she wanted to break away from the heavenly fate and detoxify herself. Otherwise, with his understanding of his sister, Mu Xingqin knew that his sister would never take the initiative to help and insist on chasing after Rochuan, begging to detoxify her. However, Rochuan was unwilling to speak up. If Mu Xingqin glanced at Arbor hesitantly, Mo Lien frowned slightly, took Arbor's little hand, and walked out of the courtyard. With a cold expression, he said, Big brother, you'd better think carefully. Are you going to ruin your good relationship with others for the sake of an ignorant woman? Mu Xingqin was speechless. Brother-in-law's words were almost a threat. In other words, if he spoke up, brother-in-law might be the first to break off relations with him. Mu Xingqin was a little distressed. He knew that he was indeed being a little too forceful. How could his sister take the initiative to say that she wanted to treat Rochuan brother-in-law, could not bear to let her compromise like this? Moreover, Rochuan might not necessarily accept his sister's kindness. But how could he bear to watch Rochuan walk step by step into the abyss of death? Thump! A small winter date, separated by the courtyard wall, suddenly fell on his head. Mu Xingqin looked up and saw Sikong Fulling half hanging on the wall, suddenly smiling brightly at him. Mu Xingqin leaped and landed on the wall, asking with a puzzled expression, Why are you here? Would you believe me if I said that I'm here to watch the show? Mu Xingqin's expression was indifferent. Miss Sikong came all the way from the River of Forgetfulness to Dragonflame City to watch the show. Looks like he's really free. Please forgive me for not keeping you company. Hey! Sikong Fulling tilted her head and grumpily yelled at him. You are such a boring person. Are you going to leave without even saying a word? You finally know that I came all the way here. As the host, shouldn't you take good care of your guest? There is little common ground between people of different paths, Mu Xingqin said indifferently. Miss Sikong, I advise you to return where you came from. Don't cause trouble in the city. Who knows what my sister would do if she saw you? Sikong Fulling stomped her feet in exasperation and shouted at Mu Xingqin's back. The little stoic also has to be reasonable. I only came to the imperial capital of the Divine Prefecture for a stroll. Could it be that this stoic face will eat me up? Mu Xingqin ignored her and walked out of the door. Sikong Fulling crouched on the wall, stomping her feet in anger. The Mu family siblings were both quite abominable. Both of them could make someone stomp their feet in anger with less than 3 sentences. Sikong Fulling stared at his back and muttered, He's really heartless enough. Chapter 53-54. You were too fierce to eldest brother just now. You rebuked him until he couldn't say anything. The little stoic tugged at Yin's hand and pursed her lips at him in displeasure. Then look at him. He's so indecisive and hesitant. After eldest, Miss Moo pretended to be pitiful. It looks like he's about to switch sides immediately. Yin was furious. I directly interrupted him to prevent him from saying anything that would cause you to be mistreated. Simply baffling. Eldest brother sometimes looks like a rather astute person, but sometimes he looks especially muddle-headed. He even planned to beg you to go over and treat Miss Moo. Our crown princess isn't a medical lady who saves this and that and saves just anyone. What does it have to do with us when other people are bent on seeking death? Your eldest brother is really... The little stoic listened as this man prattled on and on about Big Brother this and Big Brother that, thoroughly dissing Big Brother. She found it funny for a moment, but she also couldn't help but feel touched. Jojo's Lotus always stood by Jojo's side out of habit and rebuked anyone who didn't treat her well. This kind of unreserved trust allowed her to do anything without the slightest apprehension. The little stoic pursed her lips and squeezed his palm with her soft hand. Don't be angry. Eldest brother, he has a simple and honest personality. He naturally couldn't bear to see Mu Rochuan in such a miserable state. I understand eldest brother's thinking. In the end, she's still his younger sister. If he could help her, he would definitely spare no effort to help her. Prince Mo's handsome face was taut, but he still can't push you out and compromise. The little stoic reached out and pinched his chin with all her might. She looked at him with curved eyes. I've never been someone who would suffer grievances. Mu Rochuan herself didn't even want to turn back. So how could I possibly drag her back? My relationship with her isn't that good. Besides, my dead mother is still between us. In the end, she's still Mu Qingya's daughter. Her mother and I have a blood feud. Although everything has come to an end with Mu Qingya's death, the grudges between people are not so easy to end. Besides, Mu Rochuan herself doesn't wish for us to drag her down. Let her be. Yin gave a MHM and said with a nod, It's great that you can think this way. I was so worried about you. In order to give eldest brother face, you had to sacrifice yourself to do something that you were unwilling to do. The little stoic grinned. I'm not that stupid. She looked tired and stretched out her hand to yawn. I'm still pregnant. I don't have that much energy. Yin's eyes lit up. He quickly stretched out his arms and pulled his wife into his arms. Wife, I'll carry you back. You can rest along the way. If you want to sleep, you can lean on me and sleep for a while. The little stoic glared at him. If you openly carry me through the city gates, gossip will spread again tomorrow. Yin lowered his head and pecked her. If anyone dares to be long-winded, I'll have Yuba lead people to cut off those tongues. Arbor was both helpless and amused. She pinched his sleeve. Hubby. She yawned again and leaned into his arms. Then I'll sleep first. Sleep. We'll be home soon. The little stoic mumbled and quickly fell into a deep sleep. Right now, it was like someone had set her time. When it was time, no matter where she was, she could fall asleep while standing. It was just this miraculous. Chapter 53-55. The next morning, Arbor was woken up by the clamor in the court. She looked up at the bed veil and then at the brilliant sunlight shining in through the window. Presumably, it was already noon. Recently, her drowsiness had become more and more serious, but every time she checked her pulse, there was nothing wrong with it. Not only was there nothing wrong with it, but her body was as healthy as a calf. She took a body-strengthening pill every 3 days, and the royal physicians lined up to check her pulse 3 times in the morning, noon, and night. She was healthy every time, so healthy that it made everyone envious. But it was this perfectly healthy body that was incredibly drowsy every day, especially during this period of time. She would fall asleep at the appointed time. She had to sleep at the appointed time every night and would only wake up at the appointed time every day. When she was awake, she was as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger, and she could beat a cow to death even if they were separated by a mountain. But when it was time for the afternoon, She had to sleep again at the appointed time. When it was time for the afternoon, she would get up to move around and have a meal. When it was time for the evening, she would crawl into bed and sleep soundly. It was such a comical cycle. Sir Jojo did some calculations for himself. Excluding the time needed to eat and wash up, she would probably only be awake for 2 hours in the afternoon. No wonder all the royal maids and eunuchs around him were so nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. It was truly because their crown princess had slept for too long. However, His Highness the Crown Prince, who had always doted on the crown princess, wasn't that nervous this time. He merely glanced at his wife's stomach with an indescribable gaze every time. Arbor shuffled off the bed. When she looked up, she saw Saishio push open the door and enter, hastily running toward her. "Crown Princess, why did you come down by yourself?" Sir Jojo expressionlessly stroked her stomach and bounced lightly. "Don't look at how big my stomach is. In fact, my body is as light as a swallow right now, and I can even carry the wind with me when I walk." Saishio silently lowered her head, and the corner of her mouth involuntarily twitched. However, her movements weren't slow, and she had already gone up to support the young Crown Princess. "Crown Princess, let this servant help you to wash up." The little stoic feigned indifference and asked, "Why is it so noisy outside?" Kaishio pursed her lips and smiled. "His Highness the Crown Prince has brought Master, Madam, Second Master, and Second Madam's family to the Eastern Palace. What your Highness means is that it will be the New Year soon. Your body is getting heavier by the day, so it's not convenient for you to come and go. Why don't you bring everyone over and stay in the palace to celebrate the New Year together?" The little stoic's eyes brightened, but her expression remained haughty and delicate as she quietly muttered, "He's the only one who's meddlesome." Kaichi walked over and heard these words. She quickly held back her laughter and said, "When this servant came over just now, I saw Miss Lin pulling a few palace maids and playing with the teapot. Miss Lin must have achieved a complete victory." The little stoic uttered an "oh" and put on a small "I'm not too interested" expression, but her feet involuntarily walked towards the door. Kaishio hurriedly smiled and pulled her. "Crown Princess, please let this servant do your hair before going out." "MHM. Kaichi also said, "You still have to change your clothes." Only then did the little stoic realize that in her happiness, she wanted to wring out her uncombed hair and clothes just like that. Hence, this fellow resentfully stopped and nodded, saying in deadly earnest, "Bring that red one over." The Crown Princess really had a lot of red battle clothes. Because her stomach had gotten big recently, she had the manufacturing department rush out a batch of new clothes. Chapter 53-56. Holding back her laughter, Saichi took out a red dress of the latest design for her and quickly walked to her side. After the little crown princess finished washing up and putting on her clothes, she subconsciously reached out to stroke her round belly and asked in all seriousness, "Saishio, do you feel that my entire body is emitting heat recently? Especially around my belly, it seems like heat waves are rolling in." Sometimes, when she touched it herself, she could feel that her belly was a little hot. It was simply a little comical. The corner of Saishio's mouth twitched, and she calmly nodded. "That's right. But Crown Princess, your belly doesn't allow others to get close. Whenever someone wants to touch it, they will be shaken away. Cough. That's why we don't feel the heat waves from afar." She was pregnant, and so was the Crown Princess. But why did they feel that the Crown Princess's pregnancy was so strange and miraculous? The little Crown Princess nodded and lightly patted her belly. She muttered to herself, "Child, you have to be good. Don't be like your father. Your father tormented his mother badly back then. You can't be like him." Saishio and Saichi held back their laughter and looked at each other. Then, they followed the nagging Crown Princess and walked out. Just as they left the bedchamber, they saw Wei Ziqin and Auntie Run walking over together. When the two saw her, they smiled happily and hurried over to ask, "Jojo, when did you wake up? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" The imperial physicians have been waiting outside for a long time. Why don't you call them in? Ren hurriedly said. Arbor thought for a moment and nodded. Those old grandpas didn't have it easy. They were arranged here by His Majesty and the Empress, and they had to treat her 3 meals a day. The psychological pressure of being on tenterhooks must be very great. The sooner they finished their treatment, the sooner they could calm their restless hearts and arrange for them to return to their rooms to rest. Not long after, 7 or 8 old physicians walked in and took the little crown princess's pulse, as usual. A head imperial physician with the surname Zhang said, the crown princess's pulse is stable and healthy. But Wei Ziqing's heart skipped a beat when she heard the old imperial physician's words. She asked nervously, but what? Old imperial physician Zhang hurriedly said, Madam Qiao, there's no need to worry. I just think that the crown princess's hypersomnia is a little serious. Now, the crown princess was awake for no more than 6 hours a day. She slept for a total of 16 to 18 hours a day. The imperial physicians felt that something was wrong, and they were panicking. He was just worried that something would happen to this golden nugget. If that happened, even the 9 generations of his family would be implicated. The little crown princess gave him a kind smile. But this strange smile, in the eyes of the imperial physicians, felt that the little crown princess was giving them a very serious and cold smile. The hearts of the old physicians could not help but tremble. The little stoic said to the elderly physicians, You don't need to worry. I know my body very well. There's nothing wrong with it. All right, you can all go back and rest first. Wei Ziqing watched as the 2 eunuchs sent the physicians back. She looked at Arbor with deep worry. Jojo, you can't hide anything from Mom. Mom, I'm not hiding anything from you. Arbor looked at his mother helplessly. It's really nothing, Mom. How about I demonstrate a sword technique for you to see? Wei Ziqing and Ren Madam quickly pounced over to pull her back. Chapter 53-57. The 2 of them hurriedly cried out, Don't. Good child, sit down. Just sit down. What's swordplay? Don't scare people. Arbor was rather helpless, but he still obeyed and sat down with the help of his sisters-in-law. Wei Ziqing heaved a sigh of relief and looked at her daughter worriedly. She couldn't help but turn her head and wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. Madame Ren saw this and hurriedly tugged at her sleeve. Mother, Shaolin suddenly jumped in front of the 3 of them and tilted her head to look at the red marks under Wei Ziqing's eyes. What's wrong, Mother? Why are your eyes red? No, nothing. Wei Ziqing hurriedly waved her hand. Madame Ren smiled and pulled Shaolin to Arbor's side. She stroked Shaolin-er's little head and said, Lin, sit here with sister and talk for a while. Your mother and I will go to the kitchen to get lunch. Your mother personally cooked today and specially made braised fish and silver thread tofu soup. You guys are in for a treat. Arbor couldn't help but feel helpless. Second aunt, just get 2 palace maids to get it. No need. They don't know which dishes were made by your mother. Madame Ren said with a smile. They'll be back in a while. Just wait. Madame Ren hurriedly pulled Wei Ziqing away and walked around the flowering trees in the courtyard. After walking a little further, she said, Sister-in-law, don't cry. If the child sees you, I'm afraid she'll be nervous too. Wei Ziqing couldn't help but tear up. But Jojo's belly changes every day. It's like it's growing crazily. It looks too big now. She's such a young child, and this is her first child. How can she bear it? In Wei Ziqing's view, her daughter was still a child, but now she had to suffer so much. With such a big belly, her daughter must be putting on an act in front of them every time. She only made it sound easy, but in reality, she must be suffering a lot. Jojo, this child, is always like this. She refuses to tell us everything and only bears it silently. Wei Ziqing's eyes reddened as she choked with sobs. Sister-in-law, don't worry. Our family's Qiao has always been a blessed child. Nothing will happen to her. Besides, the Emperor and the Empress had also sent many experienced old nannies over. He even hired 5 midwives. With us by her side, Jojo and his mother will be safe. Wei Ziqing replied in a nasal voice and nodded heavily. After the 2 of them hurriedly left, Yin's slender figure appeared under a flowering tree. She silently looked at the backs of Wei Ziqin and Rin Shi as they left. Her hands under her sleeves were clenched into fists. Arbor suddenly realized that her husband seemed to be getting more and more bored. She didn't know if it was because the imperial court had started to take a break, but this fellow had nothing to do all day long. He hung around her all day long, and even wanted to pass a cup of tea to her mouth. He didn't even let her hold a book. Reading books is harmful to your eyes and your body. Let's wait until after you give birth and have some free time to read. This fellow didn't know if he was possessed, but he kept spouting nonsense every day. She had already told him that her body was fine, but this fellow was still suspicious. He kept thinking that she was pretending to be relaxed and at ease. It's because your husband is incompetent. I'm not as attentive as mother and second aunt. I neglected you a lot in the past. Last night, this fellow had held her hand with a serious expression and said, "Don't worry until you give birth to the child. Your husband will always be by your side to accompany you and take care of you." Why are you looking at your husband like that? Chapter 53-58. This guy kissed her and completely ignored her sullen expression. He said to himself, "Wifey, you must be very happy. Your husband will definitely keep an eye on you day and night." Arbor really wanted to slap him until he fainted. She didn't know what went wrong, but her husband suddenly changed. She wanted to say that she really didn't need someone to keep an eye on her. She swore that she could kill a dragon from a distance right now. There was nothing wrong with her body. Her body was as light as a swallow, and she didn't feel bloated and powerless like a pregnant woman in the later stages of pregnancy. Why didn't her husband understand human language? "Husband, you don't have to keep accompanying me." Xiao Mian's face was expressionless as she said mercilessly, "You can go do whatever you need to do." This man was simply too annoying. It wasn't like her hands were crippled. He even wanted to deprive her of the joy of peeling oranges. So annoying. Just looking at his handsome face was enough for Lord Jojo. Yin blinked and watched in confusion as his wife slammed the palace door shut, shutting him outside. Puff! Ah! A mocking laugh came from behind. Yin didn't need to turn around to know who dared to arrogantly mock the crown prince. "Rotten peach blossoms, are you itching for a beating?" Yin gritted her teeth. Hu Shichun shook the wine pot with one hand and said with a smile, "Jojo already dislikes you so much. I advise you not to be an eyesore." Yin was about to retort when a palace servant hurriedly came to report that Her Majesty the Empress had arrived. Bai Wuxia came to see his daughter-in-law with a carriage full of tonics. After a few words, he stared at his daughter-in-law's stomach with worry. Later, the emperor bestowed a lot of things and sent several experienced nannies over. The group of people was nervous, causing the entire Eastern Palace to be jittery. That night, Prince Imo ran back to his bedchamber with his face covered in dirt. He repeatedly complained to his wife that he had been summoned by Imperial Mother and severely scolded. Arbor was baffled. "Why is Mother scolding you all of a sudden?" "Imperial Mother scolded your husband for being unreliable, saying that I didn't stay by your side to take good care of you, saying that your belly is already so big. I still wander around outside all day long. Don't you see me staying in the bedroom and not leaving the house at all? I'm considerate in accompanying you." Arbor couldn't help but laugh. "Husband, you know I'm fine. Since when have you been so gullible? After what my mother and second aunt said, even you think that my belly is abnormally big and that it will be difficult for me to give birth." Yin gazed at her with a profound gaze, and he reflexively grasped her hand as he stammered, I really am a bit worried." Arbor looked at him and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Don't be so nervous with them, okay? Look. It's her nonchalant attitude that makes people panic." Yin suddenly reached out to hug her and pressed her forehead against hers. He said unhappily, "You always look like you're the one holding up the sky, even if it falls down. I can help you with everything else, but this matter, I really can't help you at all." Arbor really couldn't control her laughter. She laughed at him and teased, "Why don't we use the soul-swapping talisman? And you help me give birth." Yin looked at his wife with a dumbfounded expression. This wife, why is she so outstanding and different from the rest? Chapter 53-59. Prince Imo looked at his wife in a daze. He blinked his eyes and looked at her with a sullen expression. In the end, he made up his mind and nodded pitifully. Wife, then hurry up and do it. Arbor looked at him, who looked like he was going to sacrifice himself. His lips were pursed into a straight line, and his handsome face was tense. He even closed his eyes in fear. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then, her eyes became watery as she reached out to hold his face and took the initiative to bite his lips. I say, are you stupid? I'm just joking with you. You want to replace me, but my baby won't agree. She was already pregnant to this extent. How could she run away and become a deserter? Besides, how could she bear to let her husband, a man, suffer like this? What right do you have to deprive me of the joy of being a mother? Lord Jojo glared at her and snorted. You're really a fool. Yin abruptly opened his eyes, which were suffused with a gentle light as he stared straight at her. Arbor lowered her head and touched her belly. Do you know? I'm looking forward to the birth of this child. I'm looking forward to being able to hold the baby's hand and travel around the 3 states as a family. Wife. Yin reached out to hug her excitedly. But now that her belly was getting bigger, he was so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands. Lord Jojo was amused and annoyed at the same time. Belly. Yin hugged her with a big belly between them. Jojo, you're so nice. If Arbor had a tail, she would be in heaven right now. She shook her head and patted the back of his hand. Let go. I'm very tired these days. I don't even have the energy to care about Wu Shuang and Xuan's marriage. You have to be more concerned. Wife. Yin hugged her. Everyone else is fine. I'm just worried about your belly. I already said that I'm fine. Xiao Mu cast him a sidelong glance. You're normally very calm, so why are you blindly getting nervous when they get nervous? Me too. It's so big that it's ridiculous. Yin stammered. If you feel unwell, you must remember to tell me immediately. Got it? I know. Arbor rubbed his belly and asked on a whim, Jojo's Lotus, do you think my baby is practicing martial arts in my belly? The corners of Yin's mouth twitched as she nodded seriously. That's very likely. Perhaps our baby's innate talent is far beyond that of ordinary people. Xiao Mu glanced at him before suddenly bursting into laughter. Why are you so shameless and smug? I was just casually asking, and you went with the flow to compliment me. You're so funny. Yin rolled his eyes inwardly. You didn't believe me. I suspect that our baby is making you sleepy because he needs to practice martial arts. Husband, let me tell you a joke. Yin. His wife had become much more lively recently. She would laugh at him from time to time. Not only did she daze him, she was even telling him jokes now. Crown Prince Mo's heart was brimming with incomparable excitement. It really wasn't a waste of his care all these years. His wifey had finally been enlightened. Wife, tell me, your husband is listening. Yin nodded. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.